Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back for another, hopefully provocative, once again, conversation that we're going to have this evening, where we're going to be asking the question, are step parents real parents, right? And I'm asking this question for multitude of reasons that we will get in later. But before we do that, I would be remiss in my duty as a Pan-Africanist to ask you all to make sure that you all are aware that today, February 13th, is day one of Black Love Days. Many of you may be unaware, but Black Love Days is a 3-day celebration and an actual national holiday in the African American community. Brother Kenyatta, I see that I actually pocket dialed you on accident. So hopefully you could tap in and be part of the conversation. I actually pocket dialed you. That's why you got my call. So no harm, no foul. But today is day one of Black Love Days. Black Love Days takes place between February 13th through the 15th. And Black Love Days advocates for a love of not only self, family, community, nation, and the race. Many may be unaware regarding the background of Black Love Days, so I'm going to share that with you all a little bit. Black Love Days was created in Chocolate City, none other than Washington, D.C., the district as it's called locally, for a multitude of reasons, but most importantly, due to the fact that there was a census act of violence that took place in the early 90s. One of the sisters in the community lost her son to, of course, unfortunately, gun violence. And as a result, this sister was actually asked a question, if I remember correctly from the story, I was told by a reporter. And the question was, what can we do to solve this problem? And she stated that she believed that we needed to add more love to the community. And so Black Love Days was born. One of the things I like about Black Love Days is it's seen as by many as an alternative to, of course, the crass commercialism of, shout out to Sister Shy, appreciate you, sister. Said you didn't even know that, learn something new on this channel, absolutely. The commercialism, the rampant commercialism of Valentine's Day is more meaningful, but one of the things I truly love about Black Love Days is the fact that in Black Love Days, the first act of love that you must show towards anyone is an act of love towards yourself. And we're not talking about going to Baskin Robbins and trying all 32 flavors, right? And so I think that is something that is extremely powerful, dynamic, and important to understand, is this concept and idea of loving. When you talk about loving the community, you first want to start off by loving ourselves. We know that there are a multitude of people in our community who, unfortunately, I would argue, are suffering from menticide, and as a result, engaging on a regular basis, racially disempowering, self-defeating, and self-destructive behaviors. I see you, Brother Kenyatta. I'm gonna let you tap in a minute after I finish my opening monologue, right? I want Saturday Night Live right now, right? Brother Amir, I'm gonna let you tap in as well once I finish my opening monologue. So just want to make the brothers and sisters aware, of course, that today is day one of Black Love Day. So definitely hope that you all can take some time out to spend some time, of course, and love yourself, but also with your family and community as well. I think one of the best things that I was part of in terms of creating in the community was creating a Black Love Day celebration at the community college that I attended many years ago. So many people were unaware of Black Love Days. We believe that we need to be African-centered throughout the year, not just so-called with Kwanzaa. And so Black Love Days was something that was implemented at the institution. So definitely want to shout out love for that. Also want to mention that this is about a somber moment when we talk about a Black history fact, that on this day, many years ago, the Pan-Africanist revolutionary, abolitionist, and orator, Reverend Henry Highland Garnett, passed away. He transitioned to the ancestors on this day many years ago. Henry Highland Garnett is known, one, for his role in, of course, African American repatriation to Africa, particularly Liberia, if I remember correctly, but also for the fact that he advocated a militant abolitionism amongst the African American community, particularly taking up arms and fighting to free ourselves, which, of course, Frederick Douglass and his acolytes took umbrage with. So with that being said, I'm gonna let some people in, and we're going to get this conversation started. The link is in the chat, brothers and sisters. If you're watching, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. But I think this is a major issue. As we know, unfortunately, 80% of African American children are growing up in single-parent households. And so many people are arguing there is a single mother epidemic, I would dare say, in the Black community. Many people have argued that Black men who are should take on the role of raising and parenting children. And so that begs the question. We even know that Dr. Umar Johnson even made a similar argument on a show that he was on. I'm actually going to play that clip. And he argues that professional black men should play this role, that professional black men have abandoned the black community for the suburbs, and particularly for what he likes to call slow violence. So with that being said, I'm going to play that clip, family, and then we're going to get into the conversation. So give me one moment. I'm going to pull this up here, and then we're going to get this, as they say, get this party started, right? So give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull it up for you all. This is Umar Johnson speaking here. And then we can deconstruct what he has to say, and then, of course, have a conversation about that, and, of course, the topic for this evening. So bear with me having a little technical difficulties here. All righty then. All right. All right, here we go.
And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to tell you this right now. More than the single black mother, I'm blaming the professional black man. I want to be very clear about this. More than the single mother. There's nothing a single mother can do wrong in that house, raising the sons or the daughters, where I'm going to fault her more than a professional black man for abandoning the black community. If you notice, most black men of means, I don't care if you got a barbershop, I don't care if you got a restaurant, a car detail spot, lawyer, doctor, engineer, educator, principal, they do not live in the black community. They have moved out. They have abandoned black boys. Even if his father is not in the home, that should not be an automatic introduction to the school to prison pipeline. Even if the father is not in the home, that should not automatically follow that he has to end up a gangbanger. The problem is we don't have enough men who stay in the black community to serve as role models to the young brothers who are still there. I don't blame the rappers. I don't blame the basketball players. I don't blame the football players. I blame professional black men who have abandoned the black community for a life in the suburb. Even if he has a black wife. Even if he has a black wife, you're still in the suburb, far out of reach of the black boys who need you. And I don't think enough responsibility has been laid at the feet of black men for abandoning our women, our daughters, and our sons in the black community for a much more comfortable life in a white neighborhood.
All right, family. So you all heard that, and I'm gonna give my brief take before I open things up to, of course, the panel. But in my opinion, I think this is the fine art of black male bashing. We know this is something that unfortunately has taken place, I would dare say, since, of course, the genesis of this country. It's easy to go after low-hanging fruit, what is considered to be the softest target. At the same time, I think we also see concomitantly this idea and concept of mollycoddling women, right? He stated that there's nothing that a single parent can do, a single mother could do in the household that, of course, is wrong compared to a black man who allegedly has abandoned the black community for a comfortable life in the suburbs. So I think there's a number of, I think that his argument is wrong-headed, of course, but I'm going to open things up to the panel. Brother Amir, Brother Kenyatta, what say you?
About where do we start with?
We can start with the what
Umar's comment or the question.
We can start with Umar's comments, and then we could jump to the question.
I mean, is he married to a black woman?
He's married to anyone.
Okay, just curious. Practicing and preaching, there's some correlation.
I know he's not married to anyone.
Because I remember he was passing out wife resumes.
I remember that. I remember that as well. He was passing out wife
and he didn't get any. He didn't get one adequate reply.
I do not know. I do not know.
Did the conscious stripper block him?
I guess so.
Damn. All right. Well, my wife. Something about older women. They like to play matchmaker. So you know,
Right,
my
right.
wife
This is
has
true.
some
This is true.
some
This is
sisters
true.
in the kitty, some sisters, if he needs some help, because he's obviously having trouble doing what he want us to do. But I digress. You know, taking financial advice from a homeless man.
Right.
But I think that he is right. Broken clock. The black professional class and the Negro elites have essentially betrayed the larger black community and failed at their societally and hierarchical
Mhm.
roles they play,
Right.
and instead of constructing and reinforcing black communities, they've sought to refuge within hostile communities. And
And real quick, and I would presume that you're making this argument not based off really what Umar Johnson has stated, but even what Kwame Ture has stated.
yeah,
The black
yeah,
bourgeoisie is
he's
the
not,
greatest enemy of
wrong
black
about
people.
that. He's not wrong about the problem, but I think he is off and reactionary about the solution. And
Mhm.
he is actually wrong about, because being the reactionary that he is, a lot of times they look at the surface and the symptoms.
Mhm.
And we know the symptoms are bad, the symptoms can be painful, but we know
Absolutely.
that if we don't get beyond the symptoms of an issue, then we can't diagnose or give an effective treatment.
Right. Or the
So
problem, yes.
yeah, the black elites and the so-called black middle class have been, you know, betraying the larger black community for quite some time, you know, and this goes all the way back to the Reconstruction era. This is nothing new. We got books that are almost 100 years old. E. Franklin Frazier. We got more recent
Right.
breakdowns, class struggle in Africa. So yeah, he's right about the betrayal of the professionals. But to be honest, I don't even know if shaming or trying to campaign for these professionals to return to the black community is really a positive thing, though. Trying to, you know, convince someone to come back that has abandoned the community simply because they're going to come back with what they got. They're going to come back with psychological and cultural contaminations. So, you know, you got to be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. That type of situation.
So
So
real quick, I've seen this before. Like I've seen individuals, quote unquote, make it, become prestigious lawyers, judges, businessmen, etc. They move out to the suburbs, marry a
they
white
lose their
woman,
goddamn minds.
right? Okay, we could go with that. Lose their mind and engage in assimilation blues, right? That's a sister,
Right.
the great sister Beverly Johnson talks about, right? Beverly Tatum, I'm sorry, Dr. Beverly Tatum, former president of Spelman, and then come back and then share the blueprint to success is what?
Right.
Making yourself, aligning yourself and positioning yourself in a manner that is close to white, close
Right.
proximity to whiteness.
And Dr. Clark said, if you go over there, stay over there. No backsies. The black community shouldn't have a revolving door. The black community should have a one-way door. You know, or as Dale Jones says, just even more simplified, never let a traitor go unpunished. I think we should expel and allow and not allow people to come back that have abandoned the community, because I think we incentivize sellouts. We incentivize traitors because people can sell us out and then have a awakening and then come right back.
This is
And
very
it's
true.
no
This is very true.
Kanye's. How many times has Kanye went off and come back?
I would agree
So
100%. Yeah.
I think the objective should not be to recall these Negro elites who've abandoned us, but to cultivate a community and a culture where people will think twice, 3 or 4 times, and heavily weigh the consequences of betraying or abandoning the community.
Right. Brother Amir, what say you? Brother Amir. Yes.
Fixing dinner. Actually, I can't come behind that brother. He said it so eloquently. He said it so eloquently. I normally try to see the pros and cons of everything.
Okay.
But as the brother said, you know, once you step outside the community, we need to revoke your black card. It is like, I mean, ask OJ, ask Kanye, you know, because
OJ is innocent.
He didn't do nothing.
But he went. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about he went over to the other side and tried to come back. But we opened our arms, and then he still stayed away. Is all I'm saying.
He's not black. He's OJ. There's a difference.
He's orange.
OJ is orange.
He's orange. Exactly. He's orange. But yeah. So I and even on top of that, I just feel that I've always said every time I'm on here, I've always said there's a difference between being a male and being a man.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a man and you know your obligations as a black man, you already know what your duty and what your calling is.
This is true.
You should know.
It's like second nature. Yeah.
Exactly. It's supposed to be intuitive. I just came back from Walmart. I had to pick something up for a project I'm working on. So there's this brother standing there, tall, dark skinned, darker than you. Remind me of the brothers over in Senegal. And I said, I don't know if you're into this. I told him, introduce myself, gave him a card. No, man, I'm just a street nigga. And that right there just clicked. It just bothered me. It just, I have chill bumps thinking about it. I said, brother, as a mentor and as a father and everything I am, I said, I would be remiss if I did not tell you to elevate yourself from a king to a possible prince. Be better than that.
Right.
Be better than that. Well, I'm just saying, I'm in the street. I said, brother, I work with brothers in the Bronx, brothers and sisters in the Bronx. Who are from
down, BX.
Exactly. From the BX. I said, so don't let that hinder you from being, you have a job. And I can see it kind of, it did click on his kind of like, oh, wow, like someone is trying to get a vested interest in me. That's just one. But that's our duty and our obligation. It's like even if I did live in Oakwood, which I probably wouldn't do because they still don't want us up there, I'll still have to come back and I have to mentor my own. Mm-hmm. I have to, because without them, there's no me in the future. They have to take care of me. And if they don't know how to do that, then I'm doomed. Mm-hmm. Like now I just tell people I can't even afford to grow old because they don't have the stability and the sustenance or the mentality to know what they're supposed to do because we're leaving them. They're being abandoned. Even with that young brother, I could not abandon this brother standing there 6'4", being aloof, thinking this is all I am. I'm like, no, you're more than that.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm gonna speak to that. So I went to the gym this morning, got my Body by Lumumba on, right? You know what I mean? So when I was leaving, there were some brothers. When I was exiting the weight room, they were at the basketball court. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? Where y'all from? And I was just like, we could play the 5 real quick. But I'm joking. Like I just did chest and arms. I can't shoot no basketball. And the brother said, well, I can't play you. You a big N-word. And I said, hey, don't call me that. I said, I'm not that. And immediately, my bad, bro. My bad, man. Mm-hmm. What's your name? How old are you? Hey, can we? Right. So like you said, it's intuitive. It's natural. Right?
It should be. And that to me separates a male from a man. That makes you a man. Mm-hmm. As I tell people, it's like don't ever call me that. That's why I was just telling the client of mine came by last night with his wedding gown how in China, I chill bumps. How I clocked when a Chinese called me that. I was like, oh, no. And I know I don't.
Chinese. You're so stupid.
I don't permit. I just don't permit it from anyone, especially they're brothers who call themselves coaches and mentors. I'm like, okay, you're supposed to be a coach. I won't say the name because this person.
No, I know. We cool.
Oh, I could because I can bash him, but personal conversation when we get together. And I'm like, okay, you call yourself being a coach and a mentor, and you call these young brothers the N-word. I'm like, dude, what are you trying to I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't. It's like oil and water. It doesn't mix.
Right. So, and let me say this. So, the one issue I took umbrage with Umar Johnson, and I stated this before, was this fine art of black male bashing. Right. Well, it's because the black men have abandoned and so on and so forth. Right. There's no data to substantiate these claims. So that's what I really take issue with. Right. There are individuals who have abandoned.
You don't take issue with his black woman bashing, though?
No, I take issue with all of it, but I'm just saying.
Okay, you said the one thing. Okay,
because that's
black folks bashing
in this particular segment.
Oh, excuse me. Of course, brother. I love your plants back there. They're really.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and they need some tending. They always struggle in the winter. These Chicago. Oh, okay. Oh, you just set me up for a flex, man. You just set me up to take me down. I ain't gonna.
blackness down here, right?
I'm revoking that. Thank you. You just set me up to bring me down, brother. See,
Forgive me. No,
it's
no,
a
no,
cooperation, not a
no.
competition.
I was just, we're in it together.
Right.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's how
Good,
it's
good.
that black male love on something that's growing. It
All
wasn't
right.
that. Trust me, it wasn't that.
Okay, because I mean your stuff is flourishing. You know, my
So,
stuff's
brother Shabazz,
it's-
we're gonna need you to tap in. You said you asked the question: does Umar bash black women? So I'm gonna need you to tap in. Sister Shy, you stated, and the link is in the description, but I'm gonna put it here in the chat as well. You asked the question about what the issue of step parents. So I'm gonna get to that in a minute. So the issue, and it's one thing, because we understand that part of our goal as black people who are critically conscious, black-minded, etc., is to cherish but challenge our people, right? And so there's a way you could correct someone and say, hey, you're not being your best self. You're not doing what's in the best interest of us as the people. You're not living your truth as we may see it in a manner that isn't vulgarly, help me out here, vulgarly negative in nature, right? However,
it's been a sensitive, but a lot of that I feel if you're I don't like saying being judgmental, but a part of our tool, or I feel the part of our tool as a man, is to know how sensitive to be towards a male.
How to go about it.
Right. So basically,
I remember there was a time Dr. Twain, now this was like 14 years ago, where he got in my you know what I'm saying, about a situation. You know what I mean? So definitely, this is it can be done, right? So that's the issue I took issue with, right? In that particular snippet, that segment in which she was speaking. But so we're gonna move forward to this concept of are step parents real steps?
Well, but before we get to that, he didn't say black men, he said black professionals. So it could be a class looked at as a class criticism as opposed to a all black men. He did say specifically the black professional.
Professional men. Okay.
So But
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it still reinforces this concept and idea. So I'll give you an example. When I got into the doctoral program at The Ohio State University, I was invited to go speak at one of the local middle schools here in the Dayton area. And I'm speaking to them. I forget what my talk was on. It was so long ago. And one of the young black ladies said, well, brothers like you, y'all marry white women. And I'm like, well, you really don't know me very well. You know what I mean? But what this speaks to is that he's promoting a narrative that we know isn't true. Only 8% of black men are married to white women. Only 4% are married to black, or 4% of black women are married to white men. So this isn't a thing where black people by and large are marrying out.
But his larger point was abandonment of the black masses. He said specifically, even these brothers who marry black women still abandoning the community. Black people are only people that I'm familiar with, but that have this ongoing narrative sold to us. I don't believe that black people invented this, but I think it was indoctrinated into us that success can be defined as making it out. From the Cosby Show to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all the popular media, when I was coming up and deciding to work in graduating high school and going into college, all the media said success was defined. The purpose of striving, the purpose of degrees, the purpose of elevation within your skill was to get out of the hood, get out of the community. And we have successful blacks, from Jay-Z going back to not OJ, Cosby before he was disgraced, where they said it is their role, it is their duty to show kids that there's an alternative, that they can get out and help them make it out. And the black professionals took that sick mindset, that sick, not, my goal is to cultivate the community. My goal is to secure the community. My goal is to direct the community. My goal is to liberate the community. No, my goal is to make it out of the community. And the black upper class, the black professional class, and even Amos Wilson was much more articulate and eloquent with his condemnation of the black professional class. But I mean, I don't see from that, as much as I don't like Umar, I think he is a reactionary. I think he is regressive. I think he is a burden to the Pan-African struggle, not an asset. But in this particular teardown, I can't really, besides the Hippocratic element on him being an unmarried black professional with very contentious relationships with his BMs. Besides the hypocritical element, in terms of the class critique and the class conscious and the class condemnation element of it, I believe it's appropriate.
So you're stating that he was getting his Hubert Harrison on in this case?
Yes, hating on people that got stuff. You know, that's my hobby. I hate on people that got more than me.
All right. So we're gonna move it forward, and once again, family, the link is in the chat. So this are step parents real parents? That's the question I'm asking, and I'm asking this question for a number of reasons. Talked to a couple of brothers. I actually worked with the Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative at one point in my life, and oftentimes we see this concept and idea of, we see it all over social media, people wearing t-shirts, I'm not the stepdad, I'm the dad that stepped up, whole nine, right? And I find that to be particularly problematic for a couple of reasons. One, step parents don't actually have legal parental rights. Literally. I know this because I've gone through a divorce. My ex-wife brought her husband to the courtroom and the judge said, you have no rights here, shut up, I'm gonna kick you out. Right? Literally. The second issue is, I think it's disconcerting and disrespectful to the institution of fatherhood. It treats fatherhood as something that is fluid and fathers as fungible, in my personal opinion, right? And I'm gonna get into why. And this tends to happen a lot, right? I don't date single mothers, but I know several single mothers, right? And what we tend to find is a lot of women, irrespective of one's racial, ethnic background, have the mindset, and Sister Lovejoy, I was coming on, she talked about scrambling, this concept of women scrambling and the single mothers of. So what you tend to find is whoever they get into a relationship with, they're pushing the concept and idea of you need to be a father. You need to be a father, so my child need to be a father, so my child, right? And I always tell brothers, she's not telling you this because she thinks you're special, you have some grandiose or peculiar sense of fatherhood that's better than the next guy. She says this, she tells every guy that she's with this, right? The other issue is it could put you in rather extremely problematic situations, right? There was a brother, I was having this conversation at the gym. There was a brother who tapped in. He was almost 50 years old and he told me, I had dated a woman, I was back in my 20s. There was a situation in which she was telling me the father wasn't in the children's life. So being the good man, I came on and started being a father to the children. Turned out what she told me was false. She was keeping the father from the children. And the guy ran up on me, put a gun in my head. Right? And this might be seen as something that's extreme, right? But it's an example of one putting oneself in a situation that is dangerous, for lack of better words, right? But the biggest issue, as I said before, is you're putting in the time, the money, the resources, and you don't have any legal rights whatsoever, right? And that's the big issue for me. I would argue we live in a police state, but this is a situation in which at any time, this person can pull biological rank and say, you're not the father, you can't do X, Y, Z. And then what do you have left, right? So I think that's something to consider. I also think the push of what we find, and I've even experienced this, being a father, being an active father, and hey, when we get in a relationship, tell the child, this is your daddy now. Right? And a lot of men are aware of this and will still go along with it. So I think it's a situation that at times can be very messy, very messy.
Well, it seems like you're leaning heavily on the stepfathers, and it's almost as though you don't acknowledge that stepmothers also exist.
Well, I'm not a fan of either.
Okay. Yes? I'll be out in just a moment.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of either.
Well, let me just say, I have to go. It's dinner time.
Gotcha.
But let me just say this. Yes, a step parent could be a parent. The point is the courts dictate. Listen, even if you could be a biological birth parent on the birth certificate in the whole nine, and the courts can disrupt your ability to parent your child.
I understand that.
Because the courts can get in there and disrupt or delegitimize. I mean, parents every day here in the city of Chicago get birth parents get children taken away by the state and put into foster homes. So simply saying the court has the potential to nullify your official
Well, no,
status.
I'm not saying the court has
I'm
potential.
just saying
What I'm saying is you don't have
allow me to
legal
finish.
rights.
I didn't interrupt you.
I understand it, but it's my channel. But I'm saying you don't have legal rights. That's a big thing for
y'all
me.
was just talking about
for example,
the proper conduct of black men and how we should act towards each other.
Listen, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay,
I know you're about to go to
bro.
dinner. And these aren't. I'm not providing hypotheticals. These are situations I'm actually cognizant of.
Okay, I'm not talking in hypotheticals either. I don't know how that is how that weighs on my commentary. I'm saying yes, step parents are by definition parents. Grandparents, I as one who had a mother who suffered from drug addiction and a father who was dealing with incarceration in the federal prison system. I was raised by my grandmother. I was raised, my father figure, but no, the man who nurtured me as a father was my oldest uncle. I have great aunts. My big sister was a surrogate parent for me, my older sister. So yes, African people would literally be extinct if not for our, to hell with the courts, for our multi-family, multi-generational structure, where every adult in your community. So yes, you don't have legal status, but what you have to look at as a father or a mother in a relationship with another adult who has a parent, the quality of your relationship with that child must be a conduit through the biological or the custodial or the quote unquote.
I would agree, but that tends to be not what happens.
That.
I'm just being honest with you.
All I'm saying is, if you are a step parent out there listening, please do not be discouraged. Provide guidance, support, and just like Shaquille O'Neal is a great example, and he even wrote a rap song, "Biological."
I know it was trash to me.
Shaquille O'Neal, the song,
and I'm gonna tell you why. But go ahead.
Allow me to finish. So there are many complex maladaptation that African people have under the systems and institutions of global white domination and capitalism. But the bottom line is we as individuals have to construct and adapt in healthful and productive ways to a very almost unlivable situation. And in that situation, if I meet a brother or a sister who is step parenting another child, I'm going to respect that individual, that their spouse, and that family as a parent. I'm not going to disrespect you if I take my son to the ball court and another father shows up and he's the stepfather. I'm going to respect him as a father as much as he should respect me. And I think it's rather counterproductive and rather dysfunctional considering the levels of instability and all of the attacks that come from outside our community against our family structures, for us to internally start to diminish.
But I
have to go after that. I'm gonna have to shoot my shots and then duck out.
Okay. Because we might still be on when you finish eating. So come back.
If you're on, I definitely will.
Right. Okay.
All right. So thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
No problem.
Good to meet you, brother Amir. And
it's definitely truly a pleasure. I like your whole aesthetic. I like the vibe.
I appreciate that, bro. So later, good night, y'all. And I'll come back if y'all still on.
Okay.
I should.
And so I vehemently disagree, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I vehemently disagree. He made some nice overarching points, right? But like I stated, we live in a society, one of laws, right? If you take, for example, I had a situation once. I went to pick up my son. His mom's husband said, "No, you can't get him." I called the police. Please tell him, listen, either you get him and his child or you're going to jail. This is called interference with custody, right? Right. If you would ask your parent, that would be a civil issue, not a criminal one, right? The second issue is many people make the argument of the presumption of belief that men are coming into being stepfathers, particularly we're going to talk about men, because what? Fathers aren't actually present. That could be, we know that's not true. That's the furthest thing from the truth. The CDC did a study showing that Black men are the most active fathers when they are non-custodial parents of any other racial ethnic group of fathers in the country, right? So what tends to happen, I can speak from experience, is that what oftentimes will take place, the woman would get a man, say, "You're the daddy now," and the goal is to undermine the actual father. And so it treats fatherhood as something that's fluid and fathers as fungible, something that can be easily exchanged. Whoever I'm in a relationship with, that's who the father is. Secondly, we don't mention the fact that the highest, let me see how I can put this. Step parents or mom's living boyfriend is the number one harbinger of what? Children being victims of physical or sexual abuse. Number one. The number one cause of children being physically sexually abused is mom bringing the non-biological father into the home. But no one talks about this, right? So these are some of the reasons why, right? You can't be a real parent if you can't say, hey, yes, go ahead and have that emergency surgery. If you don't have legal rights, you can't make that call. If you don't have legal rights, you can't use corporal punishment. Irrespective if someone thinks positively and negatively about corporal punishment, a legal and biological parent could use corporal punishment. If you're not the biological parent, you use corporal punishment, you could go to jail. Because that's only something that's a purview legally, right? Because I know I would take issue with someone was trying to give my child a whooping, right? And I know from having a nephew who experienced that, young boys and girls, they don't like being physically disciplined by someone that's not their mother or father. So there's a number of things that we have to consider here. And so this concept and idea of, I would argue, that they're not, they don't have any actual legal rights. And I've always made the argument, and it's going to be rather provocative and may even, burn some people's grits, that you only have two types of men who are step parents, simps and pedophiles. That is my personal opinion. Every man that I've known, that I know of, that has been a step parent was either a pedophile or they admitted that what they were doing, raising and financially supporting someone else's child, rather than having an actual father do it, was simp-like behavior. So you could provide a retort, Brother Amir. The link is in the chat, family. Hope you all could tap in.
Well, I remember when you and I were having a personal discussion, you said that. I was like, what did you say? I can't give you 100% on that one. Even with the young brother that I seen at Walmart today, I wasn't even thinking about being his parent. I don't even know that boy's name.
Right, no, but that's just you being a leader in the community.
Okay, but I've seen, for example, when I was maybe 7, this man came into our life. He was there for 8.5 years. It took me 8.5 years to get rid of his ass. I never knew the word. Honestly, I thought about that earlier today. I never knew the word hate until he came into our life. We weren't physically abused, definitely not sexually abused, but there was abuse towards my mother. I don't say it out loud. I shouldn't. I feel remiss on saying it even now. But it took me 8 years to get rid of him, and I got rid of him. His best friend, he recently passed away. We call him Uncle Charlie. Was more of a father, and as a matter of fact, that's last time I seen Uncle Charlie, I told him I just happened to go over my mother's. I think I just got into town or something. He was there. I didn't know he was there. He was there. The used to be stepfather was there. And I said, Uncle Charlie, I'm glad I seen you, but I had this gift. I knew I wouldn't see him anymore ever again. I said, I just want to thank you for being a man in our lives. So I'm speaking on behalf of my siblings, on being a man of our life and showing us how to be men and how to treat women. I mean, I gave him his flowers. I humbly thank you for being the uncle, and it just gave me all this everything I need to give him. My mother had the mitigator go and say, well, what about John? I said, what about him? I said, he taught me how not to be right. So I said, I have nothing for you. As a matter of fact, the last time I seen him before that, I was 17, just happened to come home from school. He was there and I wanted to fight him.
Right. And here's the other issue, right? If I could speak to that. Oftentimes, more often than not, the only time a man or a woman is engaging in the process of, we just talk about men. I'm a man. I can't speak for women. Of being a step parent is because they're having conjugal relations with the mother. Let's just keep it a buck here.
I'm not going to even deny that.
Right. And here's the thing, though. When she turns the water faucet off, when the box is no longer available, when the fruit cup is no longer being put out on right to be, then guess what happens? I'm not the dad anymore. And here's the thing I tell brothers: in some states, In some states, you could be put on child support even if you're the non-biological parent. If you spent a significant amount of time providing financial or emotional support, or even living with the child and the other parent,
you are the father.
yeah. So, and why? Because these states are particularly conservative states, like Florida, I think Utah, Arizona. They're trying to get people off the books. Why off it? So I tell people, you need to be cognizant of these type of issues. Literally.
I think everyone's situation, although there's some basic similarities, but I think everyone's
child support, you can't get off. I know.
Yeah, but I still think that every case is differently, because with my family unit, although we know that that's John, Mom was like, "We'll call him Dad." I only have one daddy, and I barely call him that, so that's not gonna happen. My family always took my lead. My siblings was like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" I'm not doing it. But he knew that father comes around, you step back, way back. It's not that my father's threatening anything, but although he knew some people in the streets, but it's like we know your place. But every family's different. Me personally, I've dated sisters with children. That wasn't my thing. But even having foster brothers and sisters, or mostly foster brothers, although I was older, I'm still big brother. And if I'm a discipline you, I'm a discipline you, because I'm from the last old school. Right. I don't tolerate disrespect. So I think every family unit is totally different.
I would agree. I would agree with that 100%.
Because I know fathers especially in the Muslim Ummah, who are stepfathers, and they're damn good fathers. I know for a fact they're not pedophiles.
And I get that, but this is the issue that I'm looking at. And part of this, I'm speaking from personal experience, right? And I'm gonna tell a person.
I know it's your format, but you're a little bitter. I love you.
No, I'm just trust me. So this is a true story. This is when my son was 6 years old. He's 15 now. He's almost tall as you. But when he was 6 years old, he comes home. He's like, "Hey, my mom told me that I'm gonna have 2 dads now. This is really cool." So I said, "Okay." I was like, "Really? Okay, not bad." I said, "Let me ask you a question." This is when I was like, I used to call him Big Time all the time. "Let me ask you a question, Big Time."
I know you're sharing with them, but you told me, but where are you?
Okay. And so I said, how would you feel if your sister, Z, little sister, went to school, met a boy your age, your grade, and then said, "This boy is my brother, he's going to protect me"? And he was like, "Oh, no, that's my job." You know what I mean? That's my job to be. I said, "Well, how do you think I feel?" I said, "I've been your dad since the day you was born. Named you, cut the before." So I said, but what I'm saying is, oftentimes this is being done not when there's an absent parent. This is being done in part to undermine the actual parent.
I know for a fact in your case that's definitely 100% correct. We know in your case that's definitely.
It didn't work. It didn't work, but I'm saying that was the goal.
It wasn't going to work, especially with a midget. But I'm just saying that with I know I'm shady. I'm shady. Shit, you brought it up. I'm just polishing it up a little bit. But every case is different. But look how you raised Amir. Amir, he knows. But some kids may say if you gave that analogy to some child, it's like, well, okay, well, let's think. For me to do, it depends on what you instill in your child.
Yeah.
You are, and I'm not just stroking you. You're a man. In some cases, even on that side, it's like that's not a man.
Right, I understand that. I understand.
So, but it's what we instill in our children.
What I'm also saying is that I don't feel comfortable, right, coming in and saying I'm your dad now, and you've had. That's just not something I've ever been into. I don't get it.
There's a sister, and we're still best friends. And I after she and I broke up, I went through 3. She was married 3 times. And
each time she was married, that husband was now the daddy. You see what I'm talking about?
But I'm just saying that even
being a father is fluid.
But even doing, because I know all of them, but it's like even when I was there, it's like I wasn't even trying to be that boy's father. Matter of fact, he got on my nerves. I said, if I don't push your ass down these steps, but I wasn't trying to be I wouldn't dare do that. It's like for me to go and say, okay, I'm the daddy. That's narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is my position. This is my role. I'm gonna guide you. I'm gonna, whatever I need to do to be as a man.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm not trying to be nobody's daddy. You know, there are people who call me daddy and call me uncle and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to do that.
So I'm going to play this video so that you all can see this. This is a prime example of what we're talking about. And this
Hi,
is
Sister Ash. I like her.
Yeah, this is oftentimes what takes place. So I'm going to play this video because I'm glad you just spoke on that. You made that point.
Oh, look at Daddy.
He's not my grandma.
Really, Ava?
He's not. My dad's in jail and I miss him.
Oh, look at Daddy.
He's not my grandma.
Really, Ava?
He's not. My dad's in jail and I miss him.
So, as you can see, these are the type of games that are being played.
Okay, you know,
Right.
even with that, it's like, in that particular situation, I feel if a parent, whether it's mother or father, should let that child take the steps on what they want to do. You just can't put that in somebody's lap. That to me was wrong.
Here's the thing. One, no. For example, my parents are still married to this day, right? They've been married 45 years. Thank you, Lord, right? But I'm going to see them tomorrow. But I don't get to pick and choose who the hell I say is my father. No, I don't work that way. John Timothy Hope Sr. is my daddy, and Rebecca Ann Hope is my mother.
Okay, but you know, you're fortunate enough to have your parents together for a length of time. Bravo. Some of us didn't have that.
Right, but even so, you don't get to pick and choose. I mean, for example, I'm gonna give you an example, and I'm gonna let you speak. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna let you speak. In 2020, the summer of 2020, I was working at a COVID-19 not vaccination, but quarantine site, right? And there was a woman, my supervisor actually, she was from Cleveland, Black woman, and she shared with us that she had a son who was 12 years old. She had been in a relationship with her boyfriend for 8 years. She said the father was very active and engaged and paid $1,000 a month in child support. But she told her son, you can call my boyfriend dad if you want. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. That's disrespectful. And any man who is a man, one, would say, no, you're not doing that with me. Your child isn't calling me dad. Two, is wrong-headed. I wouldn't even be with a woman who would pull a stunt like that. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. That's extremely disrespectful. You can call my boyfriend dad if you want to, even though your dad is with you 3, 4, 5 days a week and is paying $1,000 a month to help support you. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about.
Well, I concurred with that. You know, that's even in that video, for that mother, or even because even I've seen a role reversal when the fathers have done it with females. If that child chooses, well, this is my dad, but knowing that you could, I know what I'm trying to say, you know, and I'm trying to convey it to you because you just have this still wall.
No, you choose who their father is.
You're not
because the parents aren't together.
You know, they're like, for example, although my father passed away, it's like my father wasn't really in my life until I became older. And I said to him, like, okay, yeah, and he was like, I'm like, okay, well, you give me this advice now. I'm a grown man. He's talking about, you know, watch these women and da 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 da. I'm like, okay.
You should have told me that when I was 12.
Right. I said, well, you want to go throw the ball now? He didn't get the gist of what I was saying.
Right.
You want to go throw the ball now?
Right.
Quote unquote. You want to go? You know, I'm in my mid-20s. You know, but anyway, so there were people along the line. Like, for example, my uncles. Mm-hmm. You know, although they're not biological uncles, they were more of a father to me. My father could have ever been to me.
I would agree with that. But what the point I'm making is that doing that isn't just disrespectful to the father or the person, the sperm donor, who is disrespectful to the institution of fatherhood.
And see, and there you go. When you say there's a difference between a sperm donor, a father, and a daddy in my book.
Okay.
Now, if you're just a sperm donor, why should that child be remiss of having a father?
What I'm saying is engaging in the behavior where the child gets to pick who they father, who they call mom, is disrespectful to the institution of fatherhood and motherhood. Right. For example, there were times in my life as a child that I 100% to this day believe my parents did some things wrong. I still do not believe that I had a right to disrespect them.
No, as a child, you have no disrespect.
You see what I'm saying? So there's just certain things that, irrespective of what's going on,
you know, even with my so-called stepfather, I knew as a child, I knew my place. But when I did was able to do things. Oh, I did it 100%. Like when I hit him in the head with the baseball bat and tried to kill him, I meant what I meant that blow. You know, but that's I was being a man in the house protecting my family.
Mhm.
You know, but at the same time, as a child, I still know my place.
Right. So Sister Shy is asking a question. What about children who parents who passed away when they were a baby and they get adopted? Or that, so that's a different situation, right? Completely different.
It's
No. Because when we're
six in one
talking
hand
about,
now.
I'm talking about someone coming into the household, having conjugal relations with a biological parent, and based on the fact that they're getting some nookie, then they say, okay, I'm going to be a mother or father.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm not talking about someone who independently says, I'm going to take on the financial responsibility, the legal responsibility, right, and the social responsibility of raising a child, independent of having a relationship with their biological parent or father. Those are two completely different situations. Wisdom Never Sleeps, I'm going to have you tap in a minute. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so if a male or a female comes into a family unit and they're shacking up, fine. To me, they have no nothing. They have no say, so they have no nothing. But I'm saying those parents get married. If I'm gonna be a man and step in the house of a family union, it is as a man, it's my job and my obligation to step up as a man and do what a father would do. I'm not calling you my child or saying I'm your father, but I have a duty and obligation.
Right, but this is the thing. This is why I'm saying this is wrong-headed, Amir. Let's say you met a woman. The child already has a dad who's already been taking care of business. That's already been doing his job. So there's no need for you to step up and do anything. In fact, you're actually getting in the way now.
Okay, so you're saying that. Okay, so for example, there's this sister with a child or children, and although the father's doing his thing, the father is like on a business trip. The little boy is his father, daddy day or something. Mm-hmm. I'm wrong for taking him to.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because I had a situation, same situation once with my daughter, where I had paid for my daughter to do a summer baseball with the city of Dayton. I paid for it, but I couldn't come to any of the actual games because of my work schedule. My daughter was like, it's cool, it's no big deal. I know you're at work, right? Soon as mom got in a relationship, it's like, oh. And so what would happen is if I couldn't make it, grandma and grandpa would come. Now, since you're at work, I'm going to use this as a chance to undermine you and have my boyfriend show up. You see, so like I told you, you got to follow me here, bro. You got to follow me. I'm being serious here.
I know you are.
Because I always ask the question, okay, what did you do with your son when dad went on a business trip before? Or I would have my brother, his uncle, come get him. And that's what you need to do now. Don't have me step in and start acting like now I'm the dad just because dad was on a business trip. If for 8 years, when dad went on a business trip and he couldn't take his son to the baseball game, his uncle took him, then that's what you need to continue to do. Because I'm not going to come in and start and undermine another man's authority, another man's values, another role that another man is playing and inculcating particular values in the worldview in his child. I don't play those type of games.
Okay, I understand what you said, but here's the thing, and this is out of love and sincerity and a brotherhood and blah, 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 boom. Every time you bring something up like such as this, it's always your personal, and I understand, but we're talking about across the board.
And I know, but I was part of the Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative. The man would share the same stories, and these were white men.
So fatherhood initiative. So what does that entail?
The Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative was a organization that was created. We used to meet down the job center to help fathers get access to their children. So basically, as we know, 80% of all marriages and relationships that involve children are ended by the women. And so these would be situations where these men were active fathers, great, good fathers, and then the relationship would end, and the women would take the child, and next thing you know, they would be suffering from parental alienation.
Okay, I was thinking about the program that was in LA. That was something such as that, but it was people who are stepping in and being fathers to kids. I mean, I thought it was that program. So that's why I asked.
Opposite.
Okay, that's why I asked. So,
yeah.
But that's cool, and I understand that because there's some people, and I'm gonna keep it 100. There's some people who probably just shouldn't be parents.
I would agree with you. We could agree.
I just seen a case in Kroger. I was like, oh my God, in the little black child, no shoes. How you gonna bring a black child out with no shoes on in the cold? Right. And no hat, and no this and no that. Right. And while you walking around in house shoes and pajamas smelling like weed, I wanted to go off.
Right. And the other issue is this: when you're in the household, right, and this, I haven't experienced this, but like I said, being in the Fatherhood Initiative, mentoring and working with brothers.
Let me just ask this question because I'm hungry. I need to fix my truffle fries.
Okay.
But I'm gonna stay on. But I need to fix my fries.
Brother.
Okay, say for example, I married a sister. The son is having problems with algebra, which I can't remember none of that stuff. But if I'm able to help him, do I wait for his father to get home, or do I help him with his homework?
What you, in my personal opinion,
do I step up to help him, or I just leave it alone?
In my personal opinion, you contact the father and say, listen, I'm good at math. Your son is struggling. What are your thoughts on me helping your son? That's what I would do. I don't overstep my boundaries ever. Even with brothers I'm cool with at the gym I work out with. Hey, matter of fact, I remember my grandfather. I had brought my children we was going to see their great-grandparents. I wanted to know who their great-grandparents were. So we was over there one day, and my grandfather was obsequiously respectful to me as the father of my children. Before he did anything with his great-grand, Bakari, is it okay if I give them a piece of candy? If I give them something to drink? If they allowed to eat this? I'm the same way with anyone's child.
Well, that understand, because I'm the same way. Just like I just got a teacher at school. It's like, don't give my grandchild candy. Don't give kids candy because they pat them, give them a star. She likes stickers. Give her a sticker. Don't give. You don't know if you want children.
So, but all I'm saying is, I'm like
that. I understand. That
I don't do anything with someone's child without first.
Okay, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about someone who's married to this sister in the house. The child needs help with homework. It's 10 o'clock at night. You're gonna call his father on his job and say, "Do I help your son with homework?"
Well, first off, I would hope that the child isn't doing homework at 10 o'clock at night. The other issue is, I'm answering the question.
You know what? I know it's your format.
No. But the other thing is this: I would never marry, let alone date a woman who had children. So I wouldn't have been in that situation because I don't do that.
You make me want to drink, and I haven't had alcohol in 30 years. You make me. Let the brother wisdom talk to him. I'm going
because I don't put myself in those type of situations. As a matter of fact, I remember I had a conversation with my daughter once, and I asked her. This is just hypothetical. You know my daughter; she's 13 now, by the way. And I said, how would you feel if I married a woman who had a daughter, and I said that she was my daughter now, and I started being a father to her? She said, I would look at you like you lost your mind.
Honestly, I feel your daughter's spirit. Her thing was, as long as she's not outdone or out top, I don't think she really cares. As long as she gets what she wants when she wants.
No, she said that she would care. She said if it ain't if it ain't biological, it ain't yours.
Well, to each his own.
But part of this, they're possessive over me. But
that's what I'm saying, because those are daddy's kids. I know better. I know. And it's a beautiful thing. But there's some children who don't have that, who actually need it. We spoke about that some panel. There's some kids who need that.
And I agree with you. That's why we have big brother, big sister. Exactly. We have all types of programs.
I'm making a point that when I travel, if I'm going somewhere to do a show, I even did it when we were in Iowa, wherever I was. I'm like, okay, before I get there, I need you to find a school.
You was in Iowa?
I went to the money was good.
Oh, Des Moines, okay, got you.
Right, exactly. I just know it's somewhere near Chicago. But I went down there. They flew me down to, great, the royal treatment, the whole nine. I said, but before I come, I need to find, if it's not an orphanage, and I'm thinking, okay, there probably won't be. So I'm like, find me a school, a predominantly black school, so I can talk to the children. That's always a part of my contract. That's a part of my rider. When I'm in Africa, the same thing. Take me to an orphanage. That's a part of my rider. And I'm not trying to be no one's father, although when I got the guy.
But that's not being a father. That's being a brother in the community.
Right. So I'm saying, so what if this man is in the house, again, full circle, in the house, and he's been a big brother?
Well, once again, I wouldn't put myself in that situation.
That's just you.
There's no way I would be out there. There's no way I would be in a home with a child, living in a home with a child that's not mine, let's say my niece or my nephew. I'm just being real with you.
Well,
because and here's the other thing. So let's say, like, I remember that it was rare, but there were times when my parents argued. This typically didn't happen until I was like much older. Well,
you got on their nerves.
I would say my parents are arguing, right? But if let's say my dad was around, my mom married a guy. Well, I'm going to take my mom's side off rip because that's my mother. So the man is in a situation where he has no social leverage. I mean, I saw, and I'm gonna open this up to Brother Wisdom Never Speaks. I saw a clip on YouTube where this guy was a stepdad. He married this woman, was paying all of the bills. Her son was 30 years old, still living in the house, not working, wouldn't do any chores. And so he says, listen, man, you need to move out. And she says, my son ain't going nowhere, and you're going to keep paying all the bills. What type of man would put himself in that type of situation?
That
and he doesn't have any legal rights to make that demand and say, you got to get up out of here.
So is he a man? Me, first of all, I
call it a beta male.
I'm not taking care of no grown ass man, no grown ass the child. I just told my daughter, I'm like, yo, look, you need what? No.
Yeah, beta. So Sister Love asks, but have you ever been in that situation? Never have, never will. But Brother Wisdom never sleeps. What's the word?
Brother Wisdom, talk to him, Brother Wisdom. While I fix my food.
Oh man,
I'm taking your crown.
I'm putting it back. I'm putting it on hard and tight. Like,
well, grand evening. Let me say that first of all. And I've been listening from the start, even though I haven't been on. I've been listening. And the gentleman here says, well, you're talking from your experiences, but the first guy was always talking from his personal experience. Okay? And if you don't have some personal experience, you really may not have perspective of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have first and second level and third level experiences by friends and acquaintances that you know in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all relative. Now, the subject was not really can a person be a good stepmother or stepfather. It says parenting.
Real parent. Can you be a real parent? Yeah.
Right. Now, legally, no. That's what people are missing what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You truly don't have legal rights. And I've seen this happen too many times where the good man, as they call them, steps in, they married, they help raise the child. Regardless of where the father is, and I saw a couple of comments, they always refer to the 1% of things. What if they passed away? Just like abortion and everything else. I tell you, I hear these things with the obstruse, but we're talking about as a whole. Then you cannot make a decision at schools. You can't do certain things.
And if you try, you could face legal ramifications.
Right. Especially if the child says, well, he's not my daddy anyway, or she's not my mother anyway. If you go to school and you have permission from that parent to go to the school, they may receive it to a point where once the child says something, then they got to back up and say, wait a minute. So you're not
because then the school could be held accountable for allowing someone to make decisions that they know is not the legal parent. I remember the time something happened. I think my daughter tweaked her ankle, we took her to Children's, and first thing they did was look in the system to see if they had the court paperwork showing that I was the legal biological father. Then they said, okay, you're sure, we listen to whatever you got to say. Because if they would have treated my daughter and something went bad and they didn't do their due diligence, they could be sued for medical malpractice.
Right, because they're asking for either they got to know that you're the father when they're enrolling for one. If not, they got to know what legal rights you have.
Yeah.
Did you adopt them into marriage, or are you a legal guardian?
Yeah, even to enroll a child in school, even to enroll a child in school in most states now, you have to provide documentation of you having custody of the child.
Yeah, right.
So they won't even allow you to enroll the kid.
Right, exactly. So from the legal standpoint, you cannot be an all-out, really truly committed parent of that child. Could you be great mentoring? You could be a good husband. You could be all that. You can do well. The other side to that, let's say there is the biological father and or mother in these situations. First of all, there's got to be a conversation. Yeah. That's like that little clip you had. The little girl already know her father and know where he's at.
Right. Yeah, as you saw in the video.
It ain't that she said my father is in prison and I miss him. So the mother had to already tell her and take her there, and he's been calling and talking to her.
Right, and that she's already had a relationship. She has a relationship
Right.
with him.
So it's not that she's disrespecting the gentleman there of the mother. She just says, no, he is not my father. That's all she was trying to let her know. Don't try to sell me on him because you like him that much.
Mhm.
I am, she didn't say she wasn't grateful. She didn't say don't stop doing stuff for her, but she wanted her mother to know once she crossed that boundary, I have to tell you, I know who my father is.
Mhm.
That's where children are at a certain age.
As a matter of fact, this never happened to me, but this is a situation that I'm aware of. There was a sister I was cool with. She had children, and she was dating a guy and let the guy move into the home. Her kids were like 3 years old, and she was allowing this man to give her children baths. And I said, what in the bleep is wrong with you? I said, any man in their right mind wouldn't be comfortable giving a child a bath that's not theirs.
Correct.
Right? I didn't even feel comfortable giving my own daughter a bath when she was little.
Right.
This is my own biological child, big ears, big nose, and all. I couldn't have done it if I wanted to. So I told her, I said, this is the prime example of how these situations lead to children being victims of physical and sexual abuse.
Right. The other thing is, the earlier gentleman was talking about his grandmother stepped in, he had uncles and all that. You see, when I people usually don't understand when I said there's no such thing as a single mother. When you have help from the state, you have help from the school, you have help from coaches, you have help along the way. Somebody helped you raise that child. Mm-hmm. So you're never single. You're just an unmarried person with a child.
And the other thing is, when you have uncles and grandparents, that's different. Those are biological relatives. That's not someone coming in and acting like they care about you because they're getting the good every night.
Right.
Those are two different things. Those relatives that have a vested interest in you just because you're family.
Correct. And see too, that community structure of our true culture, there's families still have that where everybody's vested in the child or children well-being. So if there is somebody that go off, get killed, somebody go on drugs or whatever, they still have the family community that still jumps in and says, no, we're not going in the system. We got them. But they still also have to if they become the guardian, they have to become a legal guardian. They have to go through the legal steps so they can legally represent you in every manner and speak on your behalf. Right. Other than that, you just an assigned person, and then the court will assign a person to take over there. So that's what also people are missing. Now, you can mentor, you can go in, you can do everything you want, but you also have to understand where the rights stop.
Yeah.
Now, you can create a bond, you can be the non-pedophile, you can be a non-anything, and you can do your best you can, but the point is, have them call you Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, and go from there. And if they ever say, well, one day they say, well, can't you call you dad or mom? Well, you can call me what you feel comfortable, but I prefer that you still call me. You see what I'm saying? By this. And so that way, you don't want to also dishonor your biological, whatever the situation was.
Right.
Because see, there are some like Shaq, he was raised by his stepdad, who was a Marine sergeant and all these things.
Right.
But he is stealing things, but at the same time, the young man, had to already be ready to listen.
And if I could about the Shaq situation, I'm glad you brought that back up, because I actually listened to an interview by Shaq where Shaq said, my biological father and biological mother were together. My mom decided to leave my biological father and leave the state.
Right.
So he couldn't be a father because he had left. She gets with this other guy. He starts being a dad. And then when Shaq said when he was like 11, 12, or 13, he's like, I want to go to my father. And when his father wasn't doing as well financially as his mom was with her new husband, he said, well, I want to stay here rather than go back to my actual dad. But the whole narrative we got was, this guy wasn't a real father, and my stepdad is the one who really stepped up. But that wasn't the case at all. This woman took you from your daddy and moved halfway across the country.
And then Shaq decided that he couldn't get everything he was getting back there with the 2-parent household. That's why he went back there. Okay. Right. But thankfully he had a disciplinary type of step parent. Okay. Right. And I'm not sure if he adopted him at all or not. I think he did, but I'm not telling with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is this. Now, what I've been listening to, and I don't want to. Well, it doesn't matter if somebody get offended because they're offended. That means the truth hit them in some way. These gentlemen, they let me address this right while they're cooking and what eating. They almost sounded similar to Umar Johnson.
Mm.
Because they still was trying to say, oh no, as a man. And Umar shouldn't speak on something he's not doing himself.
Facts.
Umar, just like these gentlemen, sometimes is catering to the female
Yeah.
as a mother in this situation to make them happy, make them look more
and keep followers engaged. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing, and I'm not taking away something great they're saying, but that's what I'm hearing on the line of that. And so and they have that same Umar effect, but on a personal level. Now, what Umar problem is, why would he say the professional? Because Umar is always about money, about everything. So he's thinking the professional people can take over where the government is doing, so the government won't have to have much say so. It's not that they should marry them, they should just take their money and help out and be another source. So then that source for that unwed mother can help donate more money to the school he gonna build in 2020.
Right.
2030,
right. Yeah, this is the reality. In 2075.
Listen, most guys, when you really listen to them, it started with Steve Harvey in his book. You cater to the women, so you can build your own financial nest egg.
Come on now.
You capitalize on the women. A lot of the men with all good intentions, and if they don't understand when they're talking, they're really trying to cater to the woman.
Oh yeah, and I think you work in the business field, correct?
Yes.
And you know this. You study marketing. Women are the biggest consumers.
Yes.
So all you got to do is tell women what they want to hear, and listen. You'll be New York Times #1 bestseller.
But not on that, guess what? That's why our family unit can never bond right now, because they go through the women. They get the women to speak the same narrative, feel empowered when they wasn't even out of power before. They was never out of power in our culture.
Okay, excuse me, brother. Excuse me, real quick. I have to interject. I'm not that sensitive, and he knows me. It's not that I'm catering to women.
I need you to speak up a little bit more, Amir. Need you to speak up a little bit more.
Okay, it's up as loud as I can. You can't hear me?
I can hear you better now.
Okay, no, I'm saying not that I'm being sensitive, because although I'm a multimedia artist, I'm sensitive. But I'm not. That's touchy to what you said. It's not that and the brother knows me pretty well. It's not
I know him very well.
It's not that I'm catering to women, although I raised 7 girls. And was raised by women. It's not that I'm catering to them.
I think he said Umar Johnson was catering to.
Okay, no, he said the brothers who were on earlier. But my thing is, it's like, and Steve Harvey, I don't consider him. I don't listen to him at all. He's about money. So when I'm include him, and brother Umar, sometimes he's okay, sometimes he's not. It's just it's just entertaining for me. But everything I say, I speak as a whole, male, female, young, old, blind, crippled, crazy. My Ummah, my community, black community, from Africa, from I'm over there to here. So I'm not just catering to women. Kind of take me off that list. I'm not trying to be sensitive, but not all of us that way. I'm speaking to us as a general, as a people's, not just catering to women.
So, Sister Ash, you said, why can't we agree with the sisters? I'm gonna need you to tap in, and so we can unpack what you mean in that statement. Go ahead.
So I was not saying directly somebody being sensitive or whatever as far as that or catering. I said it sounds like some of the language in the end result behind that, it sounds like you're catering to a woman, and it may be the wrong word, but what I'm saying is when the Lamoon speaks on certain things, or someone come with that's a fact of things that is documented, then we cannot just undress it like it doesn't happen. And if it's just harsh, it just sounds harsh or hard, and that's the way it is. Believe me, I was raised mom and dad and 5 sisters, 6 brothers, and 5 brothers. So I've seen all both spectrums of it. And so, and then the parents separated after 28 years and was with dad. Then mom had another child by her next man that they never legally married. So I didn't call him stepdad. I called him Mr. Robert. That's what he was known as. He was, but I wasn't raised by him. I just when I visited. So my dad had his different girlfriends. But what I'm saying is that I call it the way it needs to be seen. It's just like right now with people having the children. Years ago, women didn't have a choice whether they slept with their husbands off and had a lot of children and all that. Like I said, my mom had 11, best friend had 12. I had a cousin at 18, had another auntie at 23. So I know about the family structure over and over again. Now, there was a time where also contraceptives and things wasn't privy to females. But today, they have every option not to be an unwed parent. I'm sorry. And they said, okay, well, the men should not. Okay. You have to eventually take responsibility for yourself. So my thing is this. If the man don't want to wear protection, then you should either say no or you make sure you're protected. You have too many options, then blame the man for running away, not being nowhere, or most of you have the same baby daddy. I'm just telling it like it is. So I'm not saying men can't be responsible once the child here, whatever the court system, whatever. But the first line of defense is your own choice. When you say your body, your choice before the other body gets there, then you protect that body and you won't have to destroy another body. You won't have to raise a body.
And I think the other issue on this is, and people oftentimes state, okay, when you're having this conversation, why is it only focused on the women about responsibility? Well, in this country, the woman is the only one who can legally decide to take the child to term or not.
Absolutely. We're talking about this country.
We live in a country. You got to look at the legal rights.
Right. And
there's no way around that. You can't make a man can't make a woman have a baby if she doesn't want to have a child. He could try unless he want to act like it's a scene in the movie Misery, but it ain't going to go too well for him when he get found out.
Right. It's just like with the marriage thing. People, and I'm going to tell you a story about my nephew who he lived with this girl for a year. Then they decided to have this wedding, right? And so he called me. He didn't have all his, the bridesmaid, not the bridesmaid, the groomsmen or whatever. He didn't have all the guys. So he said, he said, I'm short. He said, will you be in my wedding? This is what I said to him. I said, well, nephew, first of all, if you can, depending on what the answer to this question is, I said, have you saved the same amount of money that you're spending on this wedding? Do you have it in the savings account for the marriage? Well, no, we about broke or spend a wedding. I said, well, you just said I need to rent a tux and the shoes to stand in a wedding for somebody has zero in the bank after the wedding. I can't do that. So he and my sister, his mother, got upset with me. I said, I'm not going to allow a young black male who's already married outside his race, already shacking up with him, already she has daughters from another man, and you want me to spend money when you didn't even talk to me about the wedding. You didn't ask me anything because your father's not around. I've been an uncle all your life. You didn't come to me. You made the decision. I'll show up and I'll sit in the pew. But I won't be eating because I don't want you to fix an extra plate for that. But what I'm getting at is they make these decisions and want someone else to step in and help pick up stuff along the way. So we have to not be so catering to any level. And right now, with all the legal stuff and all the stuff going on, he was following what the woman wanted in the end. And what I say is women want a wedding. Most of them never want a marriage.
Well, and we see this even with this concept of romantic love, right? When you watch a movie and it's a romantic film. Many people call them chick flicks. I think that's a pejorative term. The zenith, the crest, right, of the movie, it ends with the marriage. I mean, with the wedding, not the marriage.
Yes.
And many would argue that when you talk about this idea of romantic love, the goal is to simply do what? Have a wedding, right? We see this, of course, even in Hollywood. So listen, brothers and sisters, the link is in the chat. I'm gonna put the link in the chat one more time. Definitely want the sisters to tap in, be part of this conversation, right? Be part of the conversation. I can recall, and I'm not going to actually play this, but I'm just going to share my screen so that you all can see that there was actually a woman who made a TikTok video talking about men who chose not to date single mothers were narcissists. The fact that they did not want to financially support and raise someone else's children. She states that a man was a narcissist for not wanting to do that. So I would dare say that this situation also creates a sense of entitlement, that I am entitled for someone to come in here and raise my child. And as I stated before, in many states, particularly red states, if you spend any significant amount of time emotionally or financially supporting a child that is not yours, you can be put on child support. So that's something to consider as well. So brothers and sisters need to be cognizant of these type of things before they jump into these situations, because they believe they're simply doing the right thing. So, but you're watching Lumumba Speaks here on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share. We're asking the question, are step parents real present parents? And we're talking about real in the legal sense, because we live in a nation in which if you try to act outside of the purview of the law, there could be severe consequences, ramifications for doing so. But I just put the link in the chat. Brothers and sisters, tap in. Brother Mufasa, I think you made a statement earlier where you talked about Umar bashing Black women. Would love for you to come back in and open up, and we could deconstruct why you asked that question. And I think it's a great question because, oftentimes what we tend to find in our community, if anyone holds Black women accountable for their behavior, they are accused of bashing Black women. And we know this because even Ayanna Van Zant even stated these women are out of control. Like literally. So this isn't a situation of bashing. We're actually seeing it going to another level. We're seeing women showing up to airports in pajamas, Magic City outfits, right? Oh, I missed my flight. I'm going to start a fight with people. So when this isn't bashing, this is actually detailing accurate behavior. And people can say, well, if the man, that is a wild hyena hood rat, that is a harridan, there's nothing you could do with that person but lock them up and throw away the key, because that is a violent criminal. Violent criminal that won't listen to anyone. We've seen videos where the police come, right? We have our issues with the police, but they are authority in this country, and say, man, we need you to calm down. The woman swung on a police officer. Don't tell me what to do.
Right. In other words, they don't want to be called out for bad behavior.
Absolutely.
And not only that, that's that unwed motherhood type deal where when a man says something, you want to talk to him like he's a child. He can't call you out. He can't check you. I can check you though. I can whoop you. I can do these things.
Right.
See, that's a mother-son type of deal.
Yes, and if I could interject, and we see that because now you have children growing up in this type of chaotic, dysfunctional household, right? And guess what happens? If you're being raised by someone who doesn't believe in a practice accountability, there's no way you're going to go up and believe in it. So it's a vicious cycle that of course continues, right? And for generations. So like I said, in my mindset, and I can say this because I have my own children, but I thought this way even when I was a teenager. When I was in high school, I said I would never be with someone who had children, ever.
Right. And the thing about it is,
and I would say this 9 times out of 10, and I hope Brother Amir can tap back into this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say about it emphatically, and I'm going to say it with my chest, okay? What tends to happen is you're going to be expected to take on a financial load, spend your time, money, energy, and resources on a child that's not yours.
Yes.
And then also, more often than not, you are going to be triangulated into some drama with the actual father. I'm going to give you an example. My best friend, we grew up together. We met in 1st grade. We've been best friends for over 30 years. He is about 6'4", 270 pounds. I mean, this dude look like a freaking bodybuilder. Real life, true story. I mean, the dude is huge. He's dating this sister. He's down there in Miami, MIA. Shout out to Dade County, right? She has a 14-year-old son. joint custody with the dad. The dad is only 5'9", like $160. The dad puts the boy on punishment for getting in trouble at school. The mom says, oh, I got a new boyfriend, and my new boyfriend, it looks like the Incredible Hulk, so I'm going to disrespect the actual father and undermine his authority and let my son go on a field trip anyway, even though he told me he's on punishment. So the guy comes over there like, bring your derriere outside, you're undermining my authority, we got a problem. My best friend went outside, shook dude's hand, got in his car and said, tender your business, I'm gone. He comes back an hour later, the woman says, why didn't you take up for me? Excuse me, you were in the wrong. And now you're going to put me in the middle of something that had nothing to do with. Guess what my best friend said? This relationship is over. Don't ever call me again. Goodbye.
That's real man. That's
what a real man does. He practices accountability, right? I give you another example. I had an actual situation with a cousin of mine where I got a younger cousin. My cousin has a son. He's playing football. I talked to my uncle, which is his grandfather. They were talking about, is it possible you get him in the weight room? He starts lifting some weights with you. I said, that sounds good. He's my cousin, so no doubt. But I said, I talked to my cousin, the mother. I said, before I get with your son, I need to talk to his father. Why? I said, because as a father and as a man, he needs to know who the hell I am and who his son is going to be around.
Correct.
So she says, well, he ain't really involved like that, and he don't even be paying child support like he's supposed to, so that has nothing to do with me. Right? Yeah. Just because you don't like him anymore doesn't mean that I should disrespect him. I said, because I would want the same courtesy being paid to me.
Right.
If somebody wanted to do something with my son. I don't know who. Matter of fact, I recall one time I was at the gym as a young man. He's 18, 19 years old. He's from Haiti. Shout out to Zopound, right? And we used to work out sometime at the gym. And one day it was raining. He was like, I used to catch the bus. Can you give me a ride home? I said, you need to call your parents. Let them know who I am. They need to know my name, my phone number, my license plate number, and then I'm giving you a ride. He said, why is that big a deal? I said, I'm a parent.
Right.
I think like that. And that's just a responsible thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I used to get on my boys like that. They would go pick them up from somewhere and they Pop, can you take this home? I said, what are you talking about? Why did you call when you called me and said you was ready? Why didn't you let me know there was another kid involved? Mm-hmm. Well, then you need to call his parent to tell him who he's riding with. I said, so let's get him on the phone.
Absolutely.
And then when they wanted to spend the weekend or spend the night with my son, I go see the parent. I said, now, I don't know how you raise your kid, but this is what happens in my house. Mm-hmm. I said, now, if he gets out of line, I'm going to bring him right back home to you because, see, I'm not going to be fussing with you, and you're not going to be telling him how to live in my house the way he lives in your house.
Right.
Because my son will tell you I have some strict rules here. Right. He tried to get out of line. He said, well, he said, Grandma told me I don't have to come in to such and such a time. I said, when you come to this door at that time, you'll be going to your grandmother's house because you won't get in here.
Yeah. I can recall when I was in high school, I was at my best friend's house, and he was like, yo, man, I'm going to let you know, my dad is just like yours. So when you come in here, you got to follow the rules. So I remember the situation, something happened, and I'm like, man, just ask your dad again. And he was like, listen, if I ask him again, I'm going to be in real trouble. He already said no once.
Don't do that.
And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So it's just a certain way that man move. And in my opinion, the way man move, I'm not doing anything with someone's kid unless the father signs off.
Yeah, the best thing
that's who I am.
Another dynamic people are not looking at, when you go into a relationship with another male or female that got kids, and you talking about really marrying them to become step anything, you trying to build the relationship and you trying to now be father or mother to someone else's biological children. Mm-hmm. So now you can't really give your whole energy in building and understanding the new relationship you're in, because you have to give so much or give way to so much time with the children as well. So that all this energy you got to do. The best thing you can do is try to be the best you can in front of those. So if you're a male and there's male in there, try to be the best male, show him how to treat a woman. Things like that, how to pick up behind yourself, how to go to work, how to be in business. That's what you will be doing more than trying to just be the parent. You're just trying to be the best male role model in front.
Absolutely.
And the best female, show them how to be that girl, Any of the child how relationships work. That's
Absolutely. And if I could, there's other things in terms of the intimacy. So we know with children, you have an emotionally intimate relationship. When your children are young, they sit in your lap. Sometimes they fall asleep on your chest, so on and so forth. So I can recall there was a time, this is my daughter was like 12. We watching the movie and I'm laying on the couch. She flops down on top of me. Says, cool, let's watch the movie. I'm like, dude, you too old to be laying on me. Right? I was like, your brother didn't do this when he was 12. She said, it's different. He's a boy, I'm a girl. Like, come on, let's watch the movie. I'm comfortable. Right? But that would be inappropriate if that was anyone else. If it was a niece, younger cousin, right? Someone else's child. I'm trying to be that would be inappropriate.
Right.
So people have to say, like, yo, there's a lot that comes with this type of stuff. And the thing about it is my daughter never had to be concerned with, is this dude, is my daddy going to try to do something nefarious in nature? She ain't never had to concern herself with that.
And more times, another part that nobody's talking about right yet is that a lot of times when you're the step parent, depending on the age of that child, and they know you're not the real parent, no matter how good you try to be, when you put a rule that they don't like,
they throw it up in your face. You ain't my daddy.
Not only that, they can say you touched them and you didn't touch nobody. That happens a lot too.
Yeah, that does happen. False accusations happen a lot as well.
Yes,
particularly particularly if you are laying down the law. Now, when my parents laid down the law, I just had to deal with it. I didn't have an ace in my hole where I could accuse my mom and dad of doing something nefarious to me. But a lot of kids know, hey, the ace in the hole, I can accuse him of something and get him out the house.
Yeah, or just like you said, corpus punishment, you can get them for abuse. Oh, they whipped me, they should have whipped me, and all these things. And then they find out you're not the custodial, you're not the adoptive, or you're not the legal guardian, and there you go with the abusive charge.
Absolutely. Because I can recall.
Right.
Yeah, I can recall there was a time my son was like 6 or 7. He got in trouble at school. I gave my son a whooping. His mom tried to pull the stand up, oh, this is abuse. We went to court. She called the police. They was like, hey, he's the legal parent and guardian. He could give his son a whooping if he wants to. That's the law in this state.
Right. So that's
but if he wasn't my legal and biological child, I would have been sitting in jail.
Exactly.
So that's the type of things and you can let me know if you agree with this, brother. Wisdom never sleeps. But part of being a parent is that you have the legal right to use force and coercion if need be.
Correct.
Right. So in Ohio, you legally are allowed to prevent your child from leaving a home all the way up until they're 18 years old. So if your child says, I'm leaving, you could literally lock the door, pick them up, put them down, and say, you're not going anywhere. That is a legal right as a parent in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
But you can't do that if you're not the legal parent.
Right. Now, some states, they say to a child, you can't restrain the child, but guess what happens? So the child says at 15, they want to go live somewhere. But in that same state, you're still financially obligated to their 18. Even if you can't make them stay in your house in some states.
But you're talking about emancipated minors.
No, not emancipated, because then they're responsible for their own self. There are a few states that, let me tell you this. Right here in North Carolina, my mom, and my youngest brother used to stay with me at one time. And I got him a job and everything. And I told him, you can't do this, you can't do this. You're going to bring this much money home, da. So he tried me, but he did okay for a few weeks. Then he called in to work. And I tell him, if he ever called in and tell you some excuse, you call me, because I do the other managers. As soon as he called in, they called me. So when I got in, I said, that you just did that wrong. Then he got in there, he done have brand new shoes. And I said, well, where's your money? Oh, I had to get these shoes. And I said, well, that's 3 strikes. I guess what you're going to do. You'll be 18 in 2 weeks. Decide where you're going, because I'm putting you out. Mom said, I told you this is not the brother to play with. And I'm standing here, I can't say nothing. But before I told him that, I already called anyway, because I knew even if where he stayed before he's 18, they made my mom responsible for his welfare. So I waited until he was 18. He turned 18, September 18 on a Friday, never forget it. I was working long hours that Saturday. He was 19, 18 on that Saturday. I made sure 24 hours later, I got home from work at midnight. At 2:30 a.m., I set his stuff on his father's, because he was not the same father. So on that cousin side, he was good friends with one of the guys, and I went there, put his clothes on their porch. He knocked on the door, and Mom went in and talked to that mother and said, well, he didn't listen to him, so he's 18 now. But I made sure she was no longer responsible, you know what I'm saying, for his well-being. And so everybody in the family thought I was crazy until they found out just how he was. He was going to be a user, and it was way up from there. But what I mean
and be irresponsible, so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to show him then, but at the same time, I had to protect Mom from having to spend money while he's still somewhere else. So that's the case in several states. That even if even if you decide to go somewhere, she would still be responsible because Dad had already passed.
Mm-hmm.
So in some states, yes, you can tell them you can't go nowhere, and the law won't do anything because that's the law. But there are states where, at a certain age, a child, I think it's 14, some of them, they think they'll try to convince them that their living arrangement's not that great, and they got a good place over here to stay, and they find an adult there and say, well, if you want to stay here, that's fine. But you, the parent, still have to pay them for his well-being.
Right.
It's crazy. So that's
it's like that in Ohio. Ohio's like that. Ohio's
See?
It's here. The same thing here.
Yeah. Now the emancipated child, usually they'll be 15 when they can go for emancipation, but they got to tell the court that they are able to work. They're working. They're able to take care of themselves. They have a decent place to stay. They have some other adults there around. They rent a room or whatever, but they're allowed to make their own decisions that for going to school, where they live, and all these things. But they still can't do certain legal contracts until they're 18. That's anybody. But
Right. Yeah, just by law.
The emancipated means that parent don't have to be obligated for your well-being.
Got you. And I think the reason why it's important to have this conversation, we know that historically, right? I think even in the Disney movie Cinderella, there was this concept of treating the child like a stepchild. That more often than not, when a person does not treat a stepchild the way they treat their biological child, right? We also know statistics show that children are more likely to be victims of a physical or sexual abuse when the biological father is not present, right? And so part of the reason I'm having this conversation is I think we need to get to the solution. The solution is we need to be promoting Black families with the actual biological mom and biological dad, right? I know of a situation close to me to where an individual married a woman who had 2 daughters, and the whole time that he was married to that woman, he was molesting them. Okay, the dad, actual father, wasn't in the picture. I'm gonna come in and play stepdad. So these are real issues here.
Well, you remember the former NFL player Laverne Coles. He went over and talked about that with his stepdad that mom brought in the house and married, and he was raping him. He said every night for 3 years.
What?
Every single night.
I never heard about that.
Yeah, he was live on Oprah. And the only reason we went live about it, he told his football player, because the man was getting ready to get out of prison. He went to prison behind it. And the only reason they found out, he was starting to be so angry. So one of his friends kept saying, why are you so mad all the time? Get in fights. So he finally broke down and told someone, and that's how they arrested the guy. But he said it was every night for 3 years. And it started when he was 10, I think, or 13, somewhere like that. Yeah.
Wow.
He finally told his team. Then he went on Oprah and talked about it. And he said, yeah, he still has some fear of the guy, even though he's a grown man now.
And he's still alive? He
has a couple of kids on his. Oh, you talking about the guy?
Yeah, I'm looking it up now.
I'm just saying I would have killed his ass. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
I got you. And then I've even seen videos of judges excoriating mothers in the courtroom. Hey, you knew this man was molesting your children, and then you allowed him to stay in your home.
Right.
So like I said, and Brother Amir, of course, you push back rather strong. That's quite all right. You're my brother, you're my big brother. And I would understand that, but I think more often than not, these brothers that are doing this are simps or pedophiles. I really do. I believe that in my bones. I really do. Because here's the reality situation. My daughter's 13. She's going through puberty, gaining her womanly parts. I don't like it, right? I don't like it at all, right? My daughter becoming a woman physically, and it's right. But another guy looks at my daughter. Hey, she's a teenage girl. She look good.
Right.
These are things we have to be honest about. Right? We saw what happened in that movie, Antoine Fisher, which was based on a true story. Oh, he a handsome young man now. I'm going to see if I can get some. And she's 25, 26 years old. He's 12, 13. We don't think about these type of things. I think part of it is we don't want to think about it because it's the unhappy, it's the narrative, it's the truth that no one wants to speak to.
Right.
Right? Oh, no, we got to help these. And then I remember I saw a clip last night on Kevin Samuel's show. This woman was intelligent, sophisticated, well-spoken, had a great career, master's degree. And he said, why do you have 2 children? You're not married? Because I didn't want to be. I just want to have children. And she said, if I have financial problems, I would just move a man into my house. She stated this on the live.
See?
And he said, well, you're compounding one bad decision with another. Well, it's my life. I can do what I want. I tell people all the time, this is the type of stuff going on. Most women, when they get a man to be a stepdad, they are told every dude they dated, you want to be with me, you got to take care of my kids. You just the guy that went along with it.
And that all stems back from, I don't have to be responsible for my decisions because the government do so much. Now, when I'm making too much, I need another man. It's always someone else to take care of the decision we made. And I don't use mistake as a word. Mistake is you meant to pull one book and you pull another. But those are decisions people.
Yeah, it's a 3-for-1 special. You got the husband, you got the father, biological father paying child support. The stepdad, Simp is financially supporting, and then the government's helping take care. It's a 3-for-1 special.
Right.
You might as well play baseball and hit for the cycle. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Yep, grand slam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being real with that. These are the type of things that take place. I had a woman once tell me, and this was years ago, she had 2 kids, 2 different men. And she literally said to me, I'm looking for a man to come in and lead my family. I busted out laughing. I said, you actually think you're going to find a man of quality, of virtue, of principle to come into a home and start raising kids that aren't his? You got to be out your mind. But we got enough simps around who were raised by their mothers to believe in that being a good man is doing whatever a woman wants, even if it puts you in a precarious position.
Right. Right. You can't have that.
Yeah. And most of the time they're going to say, well, she told me X. How do you know she's telling you the truth? You don't. So guess what? You don't believe her. I remember my dad told me, right? And one of the positive things he told me, he said, rather emphatically, in fact, he said, whatever is going on between a woman and the child and the dad, what you do know is you have nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. You want to be a father, you go have your own children.
Yep.
That simple.
Yeah, I have 4 boys, and when I told them they start having kids, you're going to raise your own. Don't bring them here.
Yeah, absolutely. And my dad told me, he said, if you become a father and don't raise your children, you're no longer a member of this family.
Mm-hmm.
They told me this. I was a teenager. I'm like, I didn't even think about having no babies. I'm just letting you know. You go to jail, don't call this out. He said that if you have children and you're not a father, you are no longer a member of this family. We're talking about real life accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Structure, order, discipline. There's a systematic way of doing things, and you will not depart from it because you're not going to mess up what we've built generations to create.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about when we talk about actual African manhood.
Right. That's true. That's true. You know, women today don't realize when they go into the culture the way they should, they will be honored by the husband and the children if they do it right. But this thing about, strong, degrees and all that stuff, that's just a cop out for not wanting to operate in your femininity, like I said before. And when you operate in that, you won't have problems with anybody helping you out when those things happen. the man dies or whatever, there's a community always going to be there to help you out. You won't need the government or anybody else because they honor good women, not just a bunch of loose females. They honor good women. So when things do happen, there's someone there.
Absolutely. So listen, I know there's some sisters on the channel, Sister Ash, Mary Shy. Tap in, share your perspective before we call it a night. But definitely want to hear what you all have to say. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat one more time. Also, if you're watching, like, subscribe, and share. You're watching Lumumba Speaks here on YouTube. Black Empowerment Initiative, where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. We're having a conversation regarding our step parents, real stepmans. Brother Wisdom Never Speaks has come in. He's been able to elucidate as very well as he always does. But basically the issue is regarding being legal rights, right? And that we know in this country, I would argue that it's a police state, and that as a result of that, not having full legal rights, and actually as a step parent, you have no legal rights, it puts you in a situation where you can be handicapped a bit in terms of trying to be a parent. And if you go around those legal mandates, you could find yourself in a rather precarious situation with the state and the penal system. So those are things I think that one need to consider. I think that another great point that you brought up was this concept and idea that when you do bring the law down, because that's something that parents will have to do every now and then, because children will be children, you can find yourself in a situation where they have an ace in the hole to get you out the house by making a rather provocative and spurless accusation that you've physically harmed them or tried to touch them in a sexual manner. And typically when you're dealing with biological parents, that never comes to mind because you don't have an ace in the hole.
Right. And so one thing people don't understand too is that when divorce comes, 78% of women call for divorce. You could be created years of bonding with the kid, doing everything you need to do. And once that divorce happens, they're the biological, and then you're not bond with the child anymore. You can't be in their life anymore. So now you're hurting from the bond you made as a good parenting person. So that's the part we haven't even touched on tonight, is that 7 out of 10 that may get a divorce. And then you've done all you can for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. And now the child is even more hurt because if the initial mother or father was not in the life as they should be, there was a step parent doing that. And now divorce happens. The biological person says, oh, no. Oh,
right. Matter of fact, that happened to my best friend. He was with a woman for about 2 years. He was actually being a great father to her children. Don't know why. I told him he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for doing so. But I mean, literally, I told him that too. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But long story short, they broke up. And the young lady's daughter was still reaching out to him because, like I said, my best friend he is the paragon of accountability and responsibility. And the mother found out and said, stop communicating with my daughter. And if you don't, I'm going to call the police. Well, he had to stop communicating with her.
Right.
He couldn't say, no, this is my child. I can speak. You see what I'm talking about? So once again, you are in a situation in which you're only a parent to the limit that the mom wants you to be a parent.
Yeah, mom or dad. I always like to
mom or dad. You can only be a parent as much as they say you are. Why would you put yourself in that type of situation?
Right.
Yeah, like I mean, my dad didn't need my mom's approval to discipline me or correct me or be a father to me. And my mom didn't need my father's approval. Now they had agreement and cooperation because that's what a family union looks like.
Correct.
Right? But there wasn't a situation where my dad had to look over his shoulder when he was admonishing my brother and I to see if my mom was going to come in there and interject.
Right. And so that so you got harm on the child. So like that clip you saw that you showed. So what if a year later, even though the girl is getting, the guy's doing good for her and putting up bikes and all this stuff, what if all of a sudden the mom breaks up with him? Now she got a dad in prison. She was trying to force her to say dad on another one, but yet she gone with this one. So now there's 2 men that she cannot even talk with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So she still got to wait on the dad. So you have to be careful who you bring in, because she didn't say this was her new husband. She said this your dad.
Right.
I'm not even sure they was married.
No, I'm pretty sure they weren't.
And we
Quite
quick
sure
to
they
say
are.
that.
And like I
Women are
said,
quick to say that.
these are that video clip snippet is an example of what actually happens every day.
Right.
These beautiful stories about my grandparents and then my uncle did this and then my aunt did that. No, what you saw was what happens every day. This is my boyfriend, and because he's my boyfriend, that makes him your daddy.
Right.
Matter of fact, I have a there was a woman. This was like over 10 years ago. I had my oldest cousin on my mother's side. He went to prison for like 10 years. And what ended up taking place was he got out of prison, got back on his feet, was taking care of his business. Some young lady who was like 20 years old came out on Facebook, started befriending all of us, saying, you know, your cousin is my daddy. Your cousin's my daddy, my daddy, my daddy.
Wow.
And of course, he wasn't the father. They do a DNA test, he wasn't the dad. And what ended up taking place, but I still followed her on Facebook, and she had a 2-year-old son, and she moved some guy in the house with her that she had only known a month, and started telling her son, this is your father.
Wow.
Right? And then the guy cheats on her and moves out a month later, and then she's on Facebook venting about, no, how could you do this to me? I told my son that you was the daddy, and I said, that's the problem. You don't tell your child that someone is their father when they're not their dad. You don't play those type of games.
Right.
But that's an example of fatherhood being fluid.
And that's why some of these kids grow up so cold and they can't receive love at all because you done scarred them so heavily.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, more often than not, that video that we saw is what actually takes place in these so-called stepfather situations.
Right.
Or you have a situation in which, guess what? The stepdad, the boyfriend or the new husband steps in and tries to undermine the actual father. Like I said, me as a man, I wouldn't even put myself in a situation to where I have to check in with another man about what I'm doing in my house.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put myself in that type of situation.
The sad part is most of the men are moving in the ladies' houses anyway.
Absolutely. So it's a situation where, you're a hobosexual, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be real? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Literally, most of the men are moving in with the women. That's something else I told my son. I said, under no circumstances do you move in with a woman.
You know what I told mine?
Any time she will pull the rug out from under your ass and you homeless.
Yeah, you know what I told mine? And my oldest tell us, I'm gonna remind you what Pop said. I don't care if you rent in the closet. You better have somewhere to go because when they know that, they don't try to kick you out so fast. And that's not right. I don't care if you rent in the closet. I don't care how many nights you stay over there, but you let her know you got somewhere to go.
Mm-hmm. And you paying bills, and your name is on none of them.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Helping out. I said, and I don't play that, and they know. That wasn't the game for me. No. Don't tell me you moving in somebody. I said, where's your place?
Right.
What do you have before you do that? Mm-hmm. Then I said, well, I said, okay, are they putting your name on the lease or the deed?
Right.
Well, no. I said, then why are you going?
Absolutely.
Because I see coming up, I saw too many guys with their bags at night. When I was getting off work, they was going with the bag. I knew there was somebody to put them out in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this.
Yeah, because if you're in a situation where you're dependent on a person for a place to stay, you can't actually be a man in a household. You got to bite your tongue all the time.
Hello.
I mean, that's just the reality. Now, me and mine, no man is a bigger man than me in my house.
Right.
Right? That's the reality. But when I'm in someone else's house, guess what? I'm as small as a church mice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Small as a church mice.
And I tell you,
so this is something to be considered. Brother Amir, or want to know if you want to tap back in before we close out this evening.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to turn it in.
No, I'm just listening. But yeah, I one thing I will say that I love about my mother, although I still consider her a single parent, is that and as I said earlier, it depends on how you raise your child.
Very true.
I remember one time my mother came home, there were 3 boys, 1 girl. Mother came home, she'd been out kicking it. She lit a cigarette and said, let me talk to y'all, the boys. She sat down, lit her cigarette, and said, and I quote, let me tell you about bitches, unquote.
But see, here's the thing, Amir. In your generation, women who were single mothers raised their sons to be men.
And that's
back
what
then.
and that's
wisdom never sleeps. Could you speak to that? That for real.
That's why I said that's that last old school.
Yeah.
You know, but even still, and getting back to what the brother Wisdom said earlier about families, you know, I feel privileged. I won't say blessed, but privileged to have gone to Africa a few times, and seeing the family union over there is, oh my God, it's chill bumps.
Exactly.
It's such a beautiful thing. And like, if the father was to die, first of all, a man is not really going to come in the house. Islamically, it's still a different kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The respect, the discipline, because, you know, Islam is so structured, so
Right.
there are protocols, everything. But even, you know, going to Africa and saying that if this man dies, that your oldest son is responsible for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is taken care of. There's a system to everything. And I don't like blaming a lot of stuff on slavery, but it is what it is. To see the disciplinarianism here and the structure and the pitfalls and the downfalls, and then you know that that may be the excuse, and you're not trying to do anything to change it. That's my problem with this situation. If you know, oh well, exactly, and even in Sierra Leone, I mean, the beautifulness, the structure, and and the way they would take care of you from your look of being American, looking like them too. You're a queen, you know, and it's a beautiful thing, especially all of West Africa. You know, even in East Africa, to see the culture is so embedded. We spoke about that the last time I was logged on. To have that culture instilled in you, that disrespect is not even heard of. It's not even heard of over there. It's not heard of. But we come over here and try to, you know, from those Eurocentric mentalities. Mm-hmm. That's what's so effed up about it. We can't be them.
And I want to say this very quickly. We've seen this on the Maury show. I don't watch the Maury show. I wouldn't even be in the audience, right? And Judge Mathis, they come, they do a DNA test. They find that the guy finds out he's not the father, and he says, "Well, I'm the daddy anyway." With that, and everybody starts clapping. That's called social engineering.
Correct.
So where they are trying to engineer man into believing that being a real man means taking care of a child that's not yours. Taking care of someone else's. Nowadays, social engineering teaches men that being a real man means you take care of someone else's responsibility, not your own. That's nonsensical. But I just wanted to bring that up.
No. Even as a, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, because they eventually want us to do all that, so the government can pull back all the other stuff.
It's always about the cheddar. It's always about money.
Right.
Yeah, they want us to take the government place. That's why Umar was talking about the professional people. They want us to have a fund, jump in, do all the stuff. So then they can say, we're taking away the Section 8 because, you know, the black men that you still don't like and won't marry and all this stuff, they're going to take care of those kids, you know, no matter how many you have.
Right.
The professional people, will let them do that, but we won't let them buy up the block, but we'll let them pay for your, you know, unless they buy it, going to keep you there for free and let you rent just like we did for $2 a month. So that's what they're trying to engineer and program you to do. So then they can stop using those programs because they've gotten the black men weak enough, effeminized enough, emasculated enough to do their work.
Say it one more time, please. I don't think they heard you.
So hold on. Hey, I'm gonna play this video real quick. And then we would close out probably in about 15 minutes. But like, you gotta see, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about here.
Ordering food for her kids that's at home.
So it's for my kids.
Real kid.
Yeah, you owe me that.
And they with their daddy?
No.
No, there it is.
Oh my God. So go ahead and bring another steak and some potatoes. Okay.
No, don't bring no potatoes. No, bring the check. I'm paying for my meal and your meal. I'm not paying for your kids' meal. No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not paying for their kids' meal. No.
So you don't think you owe me after having me wait an hour and a half?
I told you I owe you. I owe you when I take you out
okay,
again.
And so you're gonna pay for my kids' food?
No, I'm not doing that.
Can you please go ahead and
I'm not doing that. Okay. No. Hold up, beautiful. Hold on. Don't do that.
Why you not bring two, please?
What's your name, Kiera? Why should I do that, Kiera?
Because you sitting right here on the desk.
I was late to the date.
Can you bring 2 orders?
But I said, why would I get her kids food? Why would I get her kids some food? They with their daddy.
She was right here.
Their daddy should be
8 and 5-year-old's beef steak with a side of A1 sauce.
She ate.
Fuck out of here, B.
Nah, hell no.
Fuck out of here, B. So
It's called take your ass to McDonald's. But
right. But this is an example of the what's the word that I want to use? Golly, that means it's time for
entitlement.
Vocabulary slip.
Entitlement.
Yes, the entitlement.
No, it's a false sense of entitlement. But that goes both ways, male and female. But it's that generation, you know, is effed up. And I've seen that clip before, and there are many of them out there, especially on Instagram and TikTok. That's why I don't really get into it that way. But it's so messed up that people will have that type of mentality. You know, even as I said, from being from that last old school, when my sister was younger, she knew infinitively that it just doesn't happen that way. And as the brother said, Wisdom said, you know, my mother always said, if you bring a bastard home, we already knew. It just depends how you raise your child, and I thank God that we were raised from the last old school because, as you would say, it was nonsensical.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, but this is why I don't put myself in these types of situations. I mean, like, look, I am 39 years old, and I have never in my life dated a single mother.
That's why I'm taking myself on a date tomorrow. I'm by myself. I'll take my granddaughter, but I think Sister Shy want to say something.
I want to say this right before Sister Shy speaks. That it was a point in there. I think what I see, because I was in that industry for 28 years before I went into the financial industry in the restaurant. First of all, you as the waitress, the server, should not be in the patron's business.
Facts.
Because she was a female of the same color, she tried to defend that.
Right.
What he should have done was call for the manager right away and say, listen, I just told this server, because I am paying for this bill, not to do this, and she's insisting to go do what this lady, who is my guest, is saying. And so when you reprimand her, you make sure she don't do this. He should have called the manager over and not try to have a third-party conversation with another female of the same color who's going to defend that.
I agree.
Who also feel the same entitlement. That
100%.
was the problem that he missed. Go ahead, Sister Shy. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, hello.
What's the word, sis?
Kenny. Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you all?
We're doing very well. I'm doing very well. Let me speak for myself. So
always great.
Okay, that's good. Well, the question, I was just trying to understand where you all were coming from, and I agree with some of the things that you said. But with the last video that you just showed, I don't understand why that guy, like, why would you take? Okay, if you didn't want to pay for the child's food, why would you take the child and the mother to dinner then?
No, he didn't take the child to dinner. The child wasn't, her two children weren't there with them. She wanted to order another meal to take home, two other meals to take home to her kids.
Oh, okay. I probably wasn't paying attention well. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, but
you can speak on that though. But you got the full scope now, so you can speak to that.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't do that because the child's not there. Why? She should pay for her own child's meal. They're just on a date. They're just on the date. It's not like he's married to her or anything like that. She should pay for her own child's meal. And that's what I like.
She should have fixed her children's food before she went out on a date. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah.
It's called. Like I said, this is why I never put myself in these types of situations ever under any circumstances, and I make that very clear from the get-go.
And you know what, Brother Lumumba, not to put my business out there, but maybe you are right. Maybe I shouldn't be dating a single father either, because I don't have any kids, and I do date someone that has one child. But now that I think about it, maybe I should never put myself in that situation, because I have dated a guy with kids before, even though I never met his kids. He was from Alabama. Next thing you know, we were in a relationship, but he was still messing with his children's mother. end up having another baby by her.
Wow.
And end up having and I found this out because we used to work together, and I found this out by another coworker, and then he finally told me the truth. So that's why I'm like, maybe I shouldn't date a guy with kids either. Maybe I should just find me a guy that don't have.
I can't tell you what to do. I'm not
saying.
Yeah. But to speak to that, when I was talking to the sister, very attractive woman, and she told me, it's like, well, you got 2 kids, so I'm kind of leery about the situation. Sure, ENT, I want you to tap in and be part of the conversation. And she said, well, I dated a guy who had a child before, and like, you know, I would play the role of a mom, but then when I would actually try to be a parent, he would be like, oh, but you're not her actual mother. I said, yeah, a lot of people go through that. You're being a parent, but then when you actually have to lay the law down, now all of a sudden you're not the actual mom, you're not the actual dad. But I said, I don't operate that way. I was in a 5-year relationship. I never asked my significant other to do anything for my children. I said, all I need you to do is be a positive adult. That's it.
Right.
So you ain't stepmom, you ain't, just be a positive grown up who's around my children. That's all I ask. But I don't play the game of, hey, you need to be a mother to them. None of that.
Yeah, another thing on that video too, that it's strange that she already had a plan to milk this guy for as much as she could. How do I know that? She waited an hour for him. Think about it. She said, you owe me that because you kept me waiting. So she had already planned, so she didn't have the money anyway to do anything. So that's why she wanted him to feed the children and everything. So she waited for him an hour. What real female lady gonna sit there and wait on you an hour for a first date if you don't have plans to milk the wallet?
Right. It was definitely premeditated, because after, you know, with me, just even with business, 15 minutes, I'm gone. That's too long. But yeah, she went in there. It was premeditated. She already knew what was on her mind. She knew she was going to feed Bebe's kids. But you know, you get what you get. You know, you get what you get.
And then not only that, where's the child's father? Why didn't you marry the child's father? That's what I don't get. Like, unless she was married and then they got a divorce, and I don't know her situation. I don't know her, but like, I'm just saying, where's the child's father? Like, why couldn't she work it out with his father?
Most of these women don't want to be married, and we have to just be honest about that. And shout out to Kevin Simons, the Godfather. He's transitioned, but one thing that his show showed was women would come on his show in real time and state, I wanted to have children, but I did not want to be married.
That's right.
Right. Matter of fact, what's the singer? SZA is her. SZA, how do you say her name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I don't
came out.
She
had an interview recently stating, I want to have children, but I don't want to have a family. Holly Berry said the same thing 20 years ago. I want to have children. I don't want to have a family.
And now she's walking around crazy.
Yeah. So when I tell people, I've had 9 women in the past 3 years proposition me, ask me, will you just get me pregnant? Hell no.
Ew, no.
There are women like that. They just want to have a baby. They don't want to be married. They don't want to have a family. They just want a child. I'm quite sure.
I told you it happened to me in New York when I was probably. I was $8,000, and I was living in New York, and I'm broke. I'm like, nah, because see, I know what kind of man I am, and I would never, ever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, but it's really, I don't understand these women, because it's really hard to take care of kids by yourself. Like, I know,
but the mindset is, I just move a guy in the house.
Right.
Literally. No, this isn't hyperbole. I've seen women on Kevin Samuels live say this. I've even had women tell me this to my face. Hey, I'm not worried about how I take care of the kid. I just move a guy in the house.
Yeah, I know an attorney, a lady attorney in Florida when I stayed there in the 80s. And she said that I have this good friend, and I just told him that I just want him to be the father of my baby. I don't want nothing from him because I can take care of it. This was in the 80s, and she was a black female attorney. She was making good money evidently, but she knew the guy. They had known each other. And he actually gave her what she wanted, got her pregnant, and that's what it was. He said,
matter of fact, I have a cousin who has 2 children. She was married, but she divorced the father. And she was in a situation where she was struggling financially. So she got in a relationship with a white guy and moved with the white guy so she got a place to stay. She stayed with him for a whole year and a half, was using him, and then broke up with him when she got back on her feet.
Oh yeah.
Oh
So
my
like
God.
I said, simps or pedophiles. Pick one. Simp or pedophile. Pick one. That's what they are. One or the other. Because a manly man ain't raising someone else's genetic material unless it's a blood relative.
And then also, when women do stuff like that, they get angry when somebody say you a whole hoe out here. When you doing stuff in the wrong way. It's the mentality that's bad. And the simps don't help. They don't
Go ahead,
help.
Sister John.
Well, no, but he is right. I mean, when you're doing stuff like that, like you are a hoe. I'm not trying to be mean, but you are. I mean, when you're doing stuff like that, that's disgusting. And then no wonder why sometimes black men they look at us crazy, like we're like something's wrong with us, But like, I don't know. I think that's terrible. Like just to use someone and stuff like that. I mean, karma, do they not believe in karma? I just try to do stuff right. I try to do stuff right because I don't want to be like that.
Absolutely. D Brown says, even if you don't marry the mother, you can still be in a child's life. D Brown, I hope you could tap in for a quick second, be part of the conversation. I'm gonna put the link in the chat right below your comment. So here's the thing I'm gonna say about that. A manly man, he doesn't want to be in his child's life. He wants to raise his child. And to raise the child is a 24/7, 365 job. And to raise a child to inculcate particular values, to impart a worldview, right, and to properly socialize that child, you have to be in the home and there every day. And you have to create a structure, a system, and a systematic way of doing things. You can't do that by just being in a child's life, right? Because what that means is you're a part-time parent, which means you're nothing more than a glorified babysitter. So D Brown, tap in. Hope you can really elaborate on what you mean by that. But when you talk about a man want to raise their children, not just be in their life. Because if you're not in the home, you have no say so regarding how that child is raised, reared, socialized, or educated.
And you can't truly protect.
No.
You can't truly provide. You can't truly mentor. You can't truly instruct.
No, you can't. I remember I had a conversation with my daughter, and I said, well, what's my number one job as a parent? I said, your daddy. She said, to protect me. Your number one job is to protect me. And I said, you're right. But in the protect you, part of protecting the child is what? Preventing the child from being put in precarious situations. Correct. But if you're not in the home, you can't do that.
Nope.
You can't say, hey, don't go there. Don't be that person's friend. They're bad for your life because you're not there.
And that's why I said earlier about it depends on what you instill in that child. And there it is. A lot of people now are not instilling these values in their children. They think about the here and the now.
Oh yeah.
Not the future. It's like I may not be here all the time. This is how you defend it. Again, giving credit to my mother and the village that surrounded us. They prepared us for the outside world, the school, the future. We were prepared for all of that. This is how you deal with that situation. We already know if you step on a piece of sticky paper, you might get stuck. Don't step on it.
Right.
These kids with this kind of stuff. Even with the sister with that last clip you played, she was ratchet. She was just a ratchet hoe. Mm-hmm. But apparently he liked ratchet hoes. He get what he got.
Right.
So he got that's what he liked. That's what he got.
The old school word, they wouldn't call you ratchet. They call you a happy hooker.
Well, exactly. You just told your age. You just told your age. Yeah, a happy hooker.
That's
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't even know that
one. That's from the 60s.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sister.
And then also she was like being like demanding him just to pay that. Like, oh, you're going to pay
Yes.
for my child's meal. How are you going to tell someone that you're going to pay, like, they have to pay for your child's meal? They're not, he's not obligated to do anything for your child. Like, I mean, like, how
Well,
dare
it's
she
called
to be like
sister,
that, you know?
sister, it's called simp energy. Women know, women
Yep.
just like
Yep.
men, they know who they could try
I
and
was
who
gonna
they
say
can't.
that. That's right.
Because
Yeah.
it's like if you think you want some of this is what you have to do.
Because here's the thing with me, and I this is just who I am. My part of this is over time and my life experiences. I would have G-checked that woman so quick, fast, in a hurry. Who the bleep you think you talking to?
It wouldn't even been no discussion. Get up. Where's my
Yep,
check?
and I would have, and I bye. I've left women.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
I did that before. Like I told real quick, I don't date women who wear weave or fake nails. It's not my thing. I'm not into it. Right.
I just told someone that.
And so I was talking to the sister that I went to high school with. We got older. I said, okay, you trying to look like you doing something now here. So listen, we're gonna go out to this restaurant, have some fun, have a couple of drinks, cocktails, whatever. She showed up with this long blonde weave in. I said, you know what I told your ass on the phone. Bye.
Yeah.
No conversation. That's the way I move. Ain't no argument.
Exactly.
So like I said, for her to even come at that man like that means he was putting off a vibe, right? That showed her, oh yeah, I could do this to him.
Yeah.
He was because he was playing. He set himself up to play the game because he was probably after one thing anyway. He set himself up. They were playing the game. There was a roadblock, and that's where it ended up being. Me personally, not even on friends, let alone trying to date someone. Even with friends, I do not do ratchetness. Ghetto. Right. You know, I just told my daughter, the teacher they had 5 teachers since the beginning of the year. The second teacher, I'm like, oh, no, you're inarticulate. My daughter's teacher she's an English teacher when she was in school. I'm like, I just don't do it. I don't care that I was raised in the soda bass courts. I'm not a victim of my environment, and there's just certain things I will not tolerate around me, and that's definitely that. And then to date someone, oh no.
Yeah,
No.
I don't blame you because I don't even like hanging around people like that has like that's ratchet and stuff like that because I don't even like even where I work. Sometimes there's girls that act like that, and I just look at them crazy, and I just try to be far as away, like get away from them as far as possible because I don't like that, you know, just being ratchet and just ghetto and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't like being around people like that.
The sad part is they think that ratchet behavior is empowering to them. That makes them strong, independent women, and they can do what they want. And they don't realize that they are putting themselves out there the way their zaddy government wants them to be seen. And then and they'll think that's strength, and really that's a weakness of theirs because they give into it. It's really
and in fact we know this because I did a show on ratchet feminism. There was a black woman who her master's thesis was on ratchet feminism, and I actually read parts of the thesis on my live, and she talked about how embracing the stereotypes of being a Jezebel, of being a sapphire, of being sexually promiscuous was empowering and liberating.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than focusing on being educated, being feminine, being a wife, being someone who builds community. So
being a woman.
This is the cap. I mean, there's an actual now academic school of thought promoting black women to engage in a very racially disempowering, self-destructive, self-defeating behavior and stereotypes that originated during the Holocaust of enslavement and the Middle Passage.
Yes.
You know, you look at some of them.
You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make it up, and it's sad. The majority of them, when you see them that way, look at who gets upset. Queen Bee. You know, you follow all these so-called celebrities. It's like, do you know where they're from? Do you know what they did to get to where they are?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being a part of the industry and knowing people in the industry, they probably don't care. They probably pat her on the back. It's like, do you know what that girl Beyonce did to get to where she is right now?
Real quick, Trina Jackson, before I can bring you on the live, I need you to cam up behind while you're in queue so I know that who you are, that you're not trolling, because a lot of people do that. Okay, I got you. Appreciate your sisters. You can take your camera off and I'll bring you in. All right, go ahead, Brother Amir.
No, I'm just saying they emulate all these people that they think are these beautiful
Oh yeah,
stars,
yes,
and
yeah, celebrity worship.
fake
Yeah,
this, fake that, and it's like it's false. It's not real. It's not real.
right.
Yeah, and then not only that, who wants to pay $1,000 to go see Beyonce when you could take that money to buy some land in like certain South American countries and African countries? I'm not.
How
I mean,
about
and that's why we stay broke. We stay
yeah?
broke
It's
because
like right. It's like how about just pay your rent? How about buy some food for your babies?
yeah, that too. Yes, that too. But I
Come
was
on
just
now.
saying, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
have
I'm
any
agreeing.
kids, so
Oh,
I'm
I'm
just
agreeing. I'm agreeing with you, sister. You know, I like you. Whatever you say, if you say the sky is green and the grass is blue, I'm gonna say shy is right.
I saw what you was talking about, brother. Wisdom Never Sleeps. I looked it up. Lavonius Coles, he spoke on being sexually abused, right? To disclose being molested as a child. Like I said, this is one of the issues that many people don't speak of. We hear a lot about people talking about, oh, it takes a village and so on and so forth. And I argue that a lot of individuals who are making those claims are making these claims that as an excuse to get close to children. Brother Amir, we know of a brother in the community who was a so-called stepfather, the one that you call a midget, who was pursuing teenage girls, right? Teenage girls, right? While out in the community promoting himself as a man of
And
standard
a mentor and
and
blah blah
mentor
blah blah blah.
and black-minded. So and this is just me personally. Like I believe in mentoring children, but I don't feel I just when I'm working with kids, I just want there always to be transparency. Door open, you want to have a
Oh yeah.
camera on,
Oh
no
yeah.
problem, right? Because
Oh
I
yeah.
don't want anyone ever to think that I'm doing something nefarious, I have some hidden agenda, so on and so forth.
You
But
know, even
go right ahead.
yeah, you know, as I say, it depending on how you raise it. Even now, being a grown man, you know, because I do have to follow certain protocols. If a single female client came to my flat right now, my front door is all the way open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you bring someone with you. Even
Mm-hmm.
when some people we were talking about earlier with the midget and them, when his wife came, I'm like, okay, bring your husband with you. I don't want you in my place by yourself. Period. I
Right,
just don't do that,
and that's what
especially
they
with a
call
child.
that's what they call that's one you brother Kenyatta mentioned a broken clock being right twice a day.
Yeah.
Mike Pence, even the former Vice President Mike Pence, took the same issue. Hey, if I'm meeting with a woman, hey, I'm gonna have my wife there with me.
Yeah, especially with when I'm doing proms. I don't do proms anymore. You bring your mother, your father somewhere. Even when this one little girl was like, "Well, I want to wear," I'm like, "No, call your father."
Mm-hmm.
I raised girls. Call your father and let me ask
Mm-hmm.
your father. Well, mama's call your father.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's
the
okay.
question they asked the late Billy Graham. Why was he never in a scandal like a lot of those ministers of the time? He said, because I was never, ever, ever alone with the female, even my secretary, without somebody else being there. He said, never. He said, that's one thing that you cannot be doing is being yourself alone with females, because whether you do something or not, if they want something from you, they can always say something, you did something.
Oh yeah, and I don't play that. I don't play even when especially with children. Like even when I'm working with the second company, I want the directors. I want someone there when I'm taking your measurements. I want you to see this. This is where my hands are. I'm like I don't. Even when you were when you with the door, I'm like, no, I just don't play that. Let Sister Jackson speak, please.
Right.
I just want to say about the ratchet feminism. I think, of course, you men don't get down with that. I think a lot of these younger men, maybe some younger millennials and Generation Z men, they go for that type of behavior because
You're probably right. Yeah.
they go for that type of behavior because that's fun, they're easy, fun, and they're wild, and it's just fun to them. Because the women that are about education, family, got their head on straight, entrepreneurship, business, and saving the Black community, they don't want those women. Those women are boring. I'll give a perfect example. And I'm just going to say this, and I don't have nothing against neither one. Look at Beyonce. Look what kind of, the green light back in the day, the freakum dress on. Look what kind of music she what she was doing. And look at her popularity. And this is no disrespect to Beyonce, because I like Beyonce. Look at India Arie. Look what she was promoting. Black love, happiness. But no, because she wasn't shaking her butt. She wasn't talking all that stuff. And then she's dark skinned. I'm gonna put the color out there. And looking. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I agree with your sister. I can actually recall her first hit single was "Video," and that song came out my senior year in high school. Now I do remember it got a lot of spins on BET, but once again, it was beautifully written. She's a good-looking sister, so I'm with you 100%. We know that this is an issue, particularly in the entertainment industry, that if our sisters do not engage in promoting toxic or dysfunctional narratives in their music regarding Black relationships. One, Mary J. Blige is a good example. She's 55 years old, still crying about getting cheated on and done wrong, right? And or they're not overly sexualizing themselves. They tend not to get the type of press, notoriety, and promotion that their talent, of course, should allow them to have. So I agree with you 100% there, sister. 100%.
But delving into that, because I'm been a part of that industry, that's not what the Jews who are in control, that's not what they want in our community anyway. It's all systematically done. They don't want that in our community. They don't want positivity. There's no way, there's no freaking way that Rochelle Farrell should not be blown. But it's like she's too nice and she's, they don't want that in our community. The thing that brings us down is the ratchetness. You can't, I mean, look how they control us with the ratchetness. So no, India Arie, who sings her face off, beautiful dark-skinned sister with freckles, beautiful, body, just beautiful. They don't want that burning incense patchouli. That doesn't give them, they can't make money off of us when we're loving one another, period.
Right. So we're going to close out. Final thoughts, because I got to get up early tomorrow. Final thoughts from Wisdom Never Sleeps, Sister Shy, Trina Jackson, and Brother Amir. Appreciate everyone tapping in, being part of the conversation. If you're watching, like, subscribe, share. If you're watching Lumumba Speaks here on YouTube, a Black Empowerment Initiative where we believe we gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And I would be remiss in my duty if I do not repeat once again that today is the first day of Black Love Days. Today is the first day of Black Love Days. So make sure that you engage in actions and behaviors for the next 3 days, February 13th, 14th, or 15th, that promote love of self, love of family, love community, and of course, love of race. And the best part of Black Love Days is that part of practicing Black Love Days and celebrating Black Love Days is that the first act of love that you must commit towards anyone is the act of love towards yourself. So wisdom never sleeps. Sister Shah, Brother Amir, Sister Jackson, I'll let you all close this out.
Well, I want to say that when you speak about love, remember, love is action. So it's not what you say, it's not what you give, but it's what you do at all times. So, and you have to also be honest and truthful about everything you do and you walk in love. It's a state of being as well, like joy. So these are not feelings and stuff like that. But the other side to it is, if you're going to be stepping in to be a parent, try to make sure everything is legal. You're going to be a legal guardian. You're going to be an adopted parent. Whatever it is you're going to be, because it can't be that, you're going to always have limitations. There's just no question about it. And you can be the best. Try to be the best individual in front of any child that you can, whether you're in the house or in the street. Always try to show the best of who you are, so they can see what they're going to do, what they see, not what you say.
Facts. Sister Shah?
Okay, thank you for having me on, and I
Anytime,
have
sister.
learned a lot. Yes, I have. I always learn a lot on your channel. But yes, you have me thinking about a lot now. I mean, I'm really starting to think about a lot, especially about this topic of being like a step parent, because I do date a guy with a child, and so with all the things that you brothers have said, like I agree with some stuff I don't agree with, but now you all have me thinking about a lot. So I thank you for that, and thank you for having me on.
No problem. Brother Amir.
As my earbuds starting to die out. Sister Shy, not to get personal, I think you were talking about this person in Sierra Leone. The culture is totally different. So the problems we have here are not there. But getting back to what I've been saying, I always say, once you respect yourself and love thyself, it's easier to love and care for other people. And everything you mentioned is stuff that I've instilled even as a mentor, you know. And I think that once we all not only hear it, learn it and take action on it, I think we all be okay. So I don't use the word love too much because people overuse it, but for the sake of what the brother just promoted, I love you all. Peace, love, and soul, as Don Cornelius would say, and I'm out.
Sister Jackson.
Let's get back to the Black family. I think I'm really disappointed in Black relationships today. I don't understand why we're so divided to the point it seems like Black men and women can't get along. And I think we need to come together and start having Black families again, raising our kids again, putting values and pride in our kids again. Because if we don't, we're doomed. And what's just going to happen, in my opinion, all the brothers are going to end up being passport brothers, and all the sisters going to end up divested. And we don't need that. I'm just sorry. That's all I have to say.
No doubt, no doubt. Appreciate you. Last comment in the chat. D Brown says, I have a child. I choose not to date till my child is 18. Understood 100%. Appreciate you all for tapping in. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. You're watching Lumumba Speaks. Peace.